Smartly Uneducated.
Okay. Welcome to Smartly Uneducated. I'm Ben.
I'm Evan. Hey, today we got a little guest.
Cyber Steve.
I'm Steve.
Welcome, buddy. I think you're the second guest, right? Because I couldn't make one time, right?
Yes, you are officially the second guest on the new platform, on this new show.
That's exciting. I'm excited to be here.
Exciting. Should be fucking exciting.
And you're a smart dude at that too. You have a lot of you have some credentials, a little background, right?
So you were wanting to tell us about a goat. I want to hear the story.
Oh, yeah. Let me tell you.
Let's hear the goat story first.
So I was like 22, 21, and don't judge me here, all right? I was a young, dumb man. And this is when I was doing drugs. I was eating acid, mushrooms. I was allegedly doing these things, right? So one night I had eaten some acid and I had gone home, and I lived in these really scummy apartments. The rent was like $500. And I was on the first floor, and there were these wooden fences that lined a cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like 2:30 at night. I got home, parked my car, staring up at the sky, looking around, contemplating reality. And then I hear, I go, go bleed, legitimately. My brain said immediately, it's playing tricks on me. Like, there's no fucking way. What's going on? So I look around, and sure enough, there is a completely all black goat. Black hair, black horns, black eyes, just standing there eating grass.
That's dope.
That's terrifying.
It's horrifying. Thank you, Stephen.
Isn't that like an omen of Beelzebub or?
So like any sane person,
I would have pet him.
I walked right up to it and I started petting it.
Pet the demon.
Oh God!
So you would not survive a horror movie.
Yeah, I would not live in a horror movie at all. I was like, oh, look at this little guy.
Let me interject with one comment. It would have been really made the peak of that moment right there if you randomly said that you just pulled out cabbage out of nowhere, like a head of cabbage.
Yeah, I pulled out some lettuce.
Some lettuce to feed this.
Some loose weed. Here you go, buddy.
Keep going. I want to hear the rest.
So I pet him, and I took him on a little walk around the apartment complex at like 2:30. Again, this is 2:30 in the morning. Nobody's awake. It's only me. All the lights are off. It's me and this goat just wandering around my apartment complex. It's a pretty big complex too. So we took one full lap, and I was like, all right, Mr. Goat, it's time for me to go inside. I need to go to bed. And it just kept following me, and it came inside of my apartment. It sort of just started sitting there, like hanging out with me. I do my nightly ritual, brush my teeth, take my contacts out, the steps.
Peanut butter on his balls, the alien fucking blowjobs.
Yeah, but I prepare for the aliens. I masturbate with peanut butter, and just leave it there to let it sit and crust. It's a good mask. You ever done that before? Just put peanut butter on, let it solidify, and then crack it off later. It's a great mask.
Dude, so
leaves everything supple and soft.
I mean, I believe it. All the essential oils, it's in nuts.
And the sugar.
Get it? And the sugar. It's like twice the sugar now. Anyways, sorry.
So I passed out. I had fallen asleep with the goat still in my apartment. I wake up to the sound of the goat chewing on my bed. And it was just like bleeding and chewing on my bed, like blah, 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 chewing on my bed. And this is like at 7 a.m. now. Sun's up. I'm hungover, and I fucking flip shit. I'm like, what the fuck? Just go do it in my house. So I wake up and I wrangle the goat, put a shirt on, and walk it outside. And I'm like, where the fuck did this thing come from?
Did you have any memory of?
Of course, I had memory of it. I remember it entirely.
You just thought you were tripping balls.
I thought I was fucking losing my mind. Like I thought it was just like a drug-induced goat that just came out of nowhere. But in reality, it was a very real goat.
It was a very real goat. So
I take it out of my apartment. I give it some food. I let it drink some water. Take it outside, and I walk it around. And
He's romancing the goat.
I was whining and dining the goat.
You didn't bail on him in the morning. You made him breakfast.
It licked the peanut butter off
That's
my
what
balls.
What was that, Steven? You cut out.
No, it's what I'm getting at. I mean, he's sitting there he's in company of the goat. Good for you, man.
I take the goat outside and I wander around my apartment complex a little bit.
Yeah.
I find there's a hole in the fence, and there's a man out there saying something in Spanish. He's like, what's he saying? How do you say goat meat in Spanish?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't
El
have no
goat
clue.
Dicko.
Cabra, something like that. Cabra.
Mhm.
And I'm like, hello, sir, because he's in the cemetery where the goat lives, apparently. So the goat wanders through the hole and goes up to the man. He's like, oh, what the fuck? Where have you been? I was like, oh, he stayed with me for the night. and that's how I made friends with the groundskeeper
What
of the cemetery. Now,
It was the groundskeeper's goat?
yeah, the goat lived in the cemetery and would eat the weeds and everything. And there was like 7 of them.
Wow.
Oh, I've heard that.
Yeah, it was wild. And so now that goat, cabra, which means goat meat, apparently, would come over to my apartment and like hang out with me for a solid year and a half. Yeah,
That's great.
it was amazing.
I love
I
that.
will forever remember that goat.
That's a great way to start that.
Yeah, that's pretty
Speaking-
cool.
Oh my god. So
So I think that goat had a lot to do with like me delving into like conspiracies and like demonology and like aliens and shit.
well, isn't like a black goat, or is it a ram? I thought it was a goat.
Well,
Like, it is
black
a goat.
It's a billy goat. You're talking about a billy goat, like a male goat with the goatee.
Yeah, and it's black.
Yeah.
Black horns.
This is
Yeah.
a female.
Oh, so it's
Yeah. So one thing we'll add, obviously we are live right now. So
Hey, like and
we will
subscribe.
do
Tell all
our
your friends.
best for your sake, Stephen, to hesitate before we answer, or like if we say something or interject, we'll try to stop just because there is a lag difference by the time he's getting the
Well, hold on. If you're listening to this, share it around. Tell everybody about it.
subscribe.
Force your grandma to watch it.
Subscribe.
Go find a goat, make it watch,
Subscribe.
and subscribe.
Subscribe.
All right. Anyway.
There you go.
Anyway.
Yeah. So you were talking about earlier, you brought up a few different things kind of earlier, and
Yeah. So I mean,
Previous
I've been. I fucking love aliens. I mean, I think most people do. I'm really mad about aliens not like coming and showing themselves. You know, I'm to the point where I'm just like fucking mad. Like, if you exist, can you just fucking show it already? I'm tired of being blueballed about aliens. Like they have all these Pentagon meetings and all these like discussions, and they're like, yeah, aliens exist. They're real. They're real.
Mhm.
Look at this like 280p
they're
footage.
They're not doing like, oh, it's real. It's real. That's all like, it's bullshit. What they're doing in Congress is 100% bullshit, because they know damn well they're not saying any kind of actual factual information. And anytime something does come up that's substantial, they're like, oh, and then there's this, but I'll tell you behind closed doors.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I'll tell you behind closed doors.
Yeah.
That's the constant fucking thing, and it's now I just don't give two shits about it. If you want to follow anything about UFOs, UAPs, someone who's very experienced in the field who actually briefs presidents, and it's proven that he does. He's been doing it since Clinton was in office. It's Dr. Stephen Greer.
Yeah, Stephen Greer. Yep.
Stephen Greer's pretty good. Yeah.
Stephen Greer, yeah, phenomenal. He deserves his own podcast in general to talk about that. So I'm not going to go into anything on Dr. Stephen Greer, but I'm just saying, that's somebody that people should look into. Or just tune in later and we'll have a whole episode about Dr. Stephen Greer.
Yeah.
Reach out to me like, bro, be on the podcast. We have like no followers, but hey, it'll be fun.
No, but sure, I'm sure he'll do it for $500.
I think it's a little heftier than that.
I don't know,
Actually,
man. He could jump on a Zoom call.
Yeah, right.
He
Real
probably
fast.
would.
$500,
he's
easy money.
Like a genuine fucking person. So you were saying that some former Israeli, right?
Yeah. So he's a general in the Israeli armed forces. He also did space security
Mhm.
as well. The man's 90 years old now. His name is Haim Ishid. He's a professor nowadays. He wrote a book all about aliens existing, and that they're working with us to give us technology to help us move forward faster.
Yeah.
And he's been talking about it with presidents. He says that Donald Trump has met them. He said other presidents have met them, and that they are not disclosing the information because the aliens and other individuals keep saying that the humanity is not prepared, which we've heard that for fucking 40 plus years, right?
Yeah, I have something to add to that. So going off what you said, so Dr. Stephen Greer actually in that episode I sent you, that podcast, he actually talks about the fact that back pretty much we conquered lots of technological feats back in the 50s that didn't come out until like the 90s, or early 2000s, and they already had that shit down in the 50s, but it was all kept under wraps. Not even part of the main government that everyone knows about around the world. This is like we're talking about. I don't want to call it a shadow government. It's more just off the books, because back then it was easier to keep shit off the books because it was all paper back then.
That's probably why the Cold War didn't happen, right?
I have no fucking idea. I'd like to think so. Aliens, bro. But
Steven, what's your take on that?
About the Cold War and aliens?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Uh, I do know that there were sightings above nuclear facilities during the Cold War, and they were having, and this is across Russia, United States, different countries, and it was very weird that each one of these countries, who were not even really supposed to be discussing nuclear anything at the time, all had the similar experience of they would see UFOs above the facility. They would all say the same thing. They would arm the nukes. Everybody would go into panic because nobody's controlling this. But yet somehow these nukes are getting armed. And everybody's thinking at the time, we're about to have a complete nuclear war and wipe each other off the face of this earth.
Christ.
And then at the last second, the nukes get disarmed. It gets shut down. The facility gets shut down completely. Complete power outage. And they have no control over this. But the only common denominator in all is every single one of them have said during those weeks or that month that this was happening, they were seeing UFO sightings. So it is very strange that all this happens at once. And it's in multiple countries and countries that are at war with each other. So this can't be just from one source.
No. I'd like to add something to that. So the whole thing about nuclear facilities and having like UFOs, or UAPs, however you want to fucking classify them, going over and basically hovering over these facilities and then powering up nuclear devices and then powering them back off, like pretty much displaying this, like, bitch, like, you have no power here. Like, what the fuck you doing? Type thing.
We're nothing compared to them.
That is still going on. That the last documented case that happened in the late 90s, and how we even know about that is due to like people who were literally stationed there. Like we're talking about high-ranking officials who were not dead. You know what I mean? And they're still alive now.
I mean, this is when Ronald Reagan was president, right, during the Cold War.
Yeah, I'm talking about the most recent one that we know about that's documented from an actual official source, and it's actually an officer. It's not like some peon. It was someone who was like high up in the food chain who was in charge of that facility.
Well, like a year ago, the Pentagon released a footage of like a metallic orb floating across the Middle East. Yeah, they said that that's a real UFO, UAP.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I believe it. Yeah, but I'm talking about just on the nuclear side of things. Last time we knew about that happening over a nuclear silo of some form, or we have nuclear devices, was in the late 90s, which is very recent. That's not during the Cold War. Cold War is long over, but there was other tensions at the time in the 90s. There was a whole bunch of bullshit after Desert Storm happened in the late 80s going into the early 90s, because there's always tension around the world constantly of potential wars about to happen fucking every fucking day. And U.S. is somehow always involved to some degree. And it's just like, we're one of the main superpowers in the world that has nuclear devices. One of the few main powers that do. So it's like, of course they would happen here if they're going to display that type of power. You know what I mean? Like, they're not just going to do it just one. They're going to do it to everybody all at once, which apparently is what was happening.
What, launching all the nuclear missiles?
Powering them up. And then turning them off without touching shit. It's just a craft hovering above. And
they're just displaying their power. That's all they're doing.
Displaying their power.
Yeah, they're saying how easy it is to hack into our systems and turn everything on.
Oh,
just like super AIs.
There was so why I was bringing up Dr. Stephen Greer from like the 50s, and he was talking about that technology. So he was talking about, and he has like all these documented photos and documents, like real official documents from military personnel, about secret meetings that took place where they're talking about aliens. They're talking about fucking like all this stuff, like the bodies that were recovered at Roswell, from the 3 different ships that went down, not just one. It was 3 down craft, which people get that misconception. They think it's just one. No, it's fucking 3. But he made a point to explain, because he works with now, especially with the establishment that he's grown, he openly talks about, and he tells them in that podcast I sent you about, which is not the first time he's mentioned it, but whenever we detonated, started playing with nuclear devices back in the 1940s, and we were doing the tests and shit like that, and blowing shit up, and then shortly after those tests, Hiroshima happened, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Nagasaki or whatever. The thing is that he was explaining that when a nuclear device goes off, it is essentially, that's why at the time the scientists who developed it were terrified to launch it. Hence why I thought it was cool in the trailer we saw for Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
It showed them terrified to even ignite it, because it was either it's going to kill everyone on the entire fucking planet, because they understood that what they were fucking with was basically tearing a tear in space and time. And he mentions that in that episode I sent you, where he's talking about it. He's saying how, like, when a nuclear warhead detonates, it's essentially, like, on a molecular level, essentially tearing space and time. Like, people don't understand what it's actually doing, because when people like us now watch footage of nuclear bombs, we just see the big mushroom cloud, we see the old footage, but we're not seeing really what's going on. We're watching through a shitty ass camera. We're not watching through like a high powered lens that's seeing molecules, shit like that. So we're really short-handed. So people don't really understand what they're really seeing. But the thing is, apparently it does that. And he was talking about these entities, these aliens and shit like that, started showing up at an alarming rate after that, because due to it potentially tearing a tear in, like, the fabric of space and time in that tiny molecular spot, it's essentially like they're becoming aware of it, because they pick up that frequency from their craft.
Well, yeah, because I mean, if space and time is just another mathematical equation, then it is easily documented and finded.
It's like I took it as like how we talked about the torus a while back,
Oh, absolutely.
of what intertwines and how everything is connected, like the framework of our universe and every other universe.
When will
existence.
humans stop fucking with space and time? I'm
Well,
telling you,
just
man.
makes you wonder, does that mean it altered or caused a torus to be, like, not in its perfect shape since it's tearing it? You know what I mean?
I do.
And then it because these are apparently 4-dimensional beings, like 4D,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Because they're coming from a veil that we cannot perceive outside of the third dimension. So you'd have to be in the 4th dimension, or shit, you never know. They could be coming from the fucking 6th dimension.
Well, first we did
Well,
atom
so-
bombs. Go ahead.
What was that, Steven?
I was just going to ask, so you don't think that they're actually from our universe or another galaxy, or our galaxy or another planet? You're saying they're from the 4th dimension?
Well, I'm torn between it, because it's like, from what I understand and what limited information I can see as being remotely true or maybe potentially a fact, is either A, these craft are like how they can appear and disappear, like the Tic Tac thing that Commander Fravor chased in that F-18 Super Hornet, or whatever. I think it was an F-18 Super Hornet.
Well,
Whenever he chased it, it was blipping. It was all of a sudden, it was like it was there. They would have visual confirmation. They would actually physically see it. And then it was like a blink and it was gone. And all of a sudden it was way over somewhere else now. And there's 2 things that run through my mind from the stuff that me and you have dove into with, like, the Gateway Project, all that stuff. And it's like, either A, they are vibrating in a frequency, and with electromagnetism and all that stuff and vibrations, and that frequency is at such a high frequency, or whatever frequency it has to be, it can basically blip anywhere it wants to, because we won't be able to perceive it at that frequency.
Well, on the topic of dimensions, humans in our world only see in length, width, and depth. That's how we experience our world in 3 dimensions.
That's why I really try to extend the ruler out as much as possible when I measure my penis.
Well, I measure mine in the 6th dimension, time. And so,
it's the length and the girth and the radius of the balls.
how long does it take to be seen by the eye? Now that's
Depends
my
on how
length.
quickly you rub it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So there are actually 10 dimensions. So in regards to aliens possibly being in the 4th dimension, and we only see perhaps a sliver of what they exist in our world through the time sequence.
Mm-hmm.
there's no telling what their actual shape would be, right? So if we only see in 3D, they can come through as a sliver of metal, a tic tac in the sky,
Yeah,
a
because that
small orb.
frequency, yeah, with the vibration and then electro different frequencies that are going at such an alarming rate, it would warp the visual representation that we're able to see because our eyes can only perceive so much, and you're not going to be able to because it's kind of like
Oh, it's not even that. Like imagine it's a cube, and the cube goes through the fourth dimension and it exists there, but it goes through our reality in the third dimension. It would only be one plane of that thing entirely.
Oh,
So it would
I
ju-
get what
it
you're
would just
saying.
be
You're
a-
not talking about like the physical representation.
No,
you're
it,
saying.
it
Okay.
would just look like a piece of paper.
Well, I mean, we
almost.
are. We're kind of talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm saying like we wouldn't be able to perceive it due to where it's really from, its origination, and how it exists.
Well, yeah.
So when it crosses over that kind of like that line that's into the third dimension, we're seeing.
we're seeing the third dimension. We're seeing the third dimension version.
And whatever represents, and so it's going to have its own frequencies, its own vibrations, all these things going on, and also it probably with it kind of being in the in between, because you think about it, it's kind of being in between if it's from another dimension, right? This is all based off of that. The other option that I had, because I told you how I was torn between the two, the other one is shit. I just drew a blank. I forgot why I was listing the two. Fuck.
Well, I'll just say I was asking because I was just I don't hear too many about the fourth dimension beings hypothesis too much. I know it's out there. It's just something that I never really came across and did a whole lot of research into. So I was just trying to see what what you guys knew about it first, because I'm firmly in the belief that they are from our universe and they do adhere to our rules and the laws and physics of our universe. And I just think they found a way to.
They just have a better understanding of how shit really works.
I think they do. I think they have a better understanding, and I actually believe that they have materials that we don't hear. And that's simply not due to some mysterious, but due to just a place in the universe of the galaxy where they can be in a place where multiple stars have gone supernova and have gone through multiple processes of processing heavier elements, as opposed to just, stopping at iron or gold, because we only go up to. We don't go into like the 100s naturally, but that's not to say that the universe can't produce certain elements that can, and they can have access to those.
Sorry, I didn't interrupt you. There was something I was going to add. I actually had a kind of a similar conversation with actually Mr. J. He was on the previous couple podcasts ago about basically alternate realities and stuff like that. We were talking about that kind of subject. I think you watched that episode. You had mentioned you had watched that one.
He was very informative. It was very good. Yes.
No, he's a cool guy. But the thing is that me and him had a similar conversation because he was I forgot how we led on to it, but I was talking about how the craft and what metal, the alloy, whatever it's made out of, because he was trying to make the point of some form about how like when you see them, like apparently there's like testimonial stuff like that, witness accounts from astronauts of watching unidentified craft, obviously a craft of some form, entering our atmosphere from space. And it doesn't like get hot, like it's not like entering the atmosphere how it normally would, right?
Yeah.
Like you would see like
I think that's
craft do.
Yeah, that's a common trait.
And so I told him, I said, well, I was like, it may be what the material that craft is made out of. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, what I'm trying to make the point of is that if whatever the craft is made out of, because in some of the documented cases of the material that was recovered from these downed UFOs, like it doesn't have anything on the periodic table that we know of, right? So it's like my mind goes to is like, what if it's made out of an alloy? Since we don't know what it is, maybe its chemical reaction is not the same as everything else. So like the typical stuff we know of in our planet, when shit goes in the atmosphere, it's gonna fucking light up, right? It's gonna ignite, it's gonna get hot and all this shit. But maybe that alloy, its reaction of what it's comprised of, does not. So the reaction it has with high friction, all this stuff like that, doesn't have the same effect because maybe it has a much higher tolerance. Maybe it thrives on it. Maybe
I think what Steven was trying to get to was the element of Moscovium, right? Like the 115.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Element 115. Well, it was that. It is a separate thing, but it's also as element 115 that was brought into the public eye that it could be a fuel source by Bob Lazar back when he used to work at S4 and Area 51. Supposedly allegedly, he snuck some out, but we don't know 100% sure about that one.
Yeah.
The thing about element 115 was that it's we didn't know it was an element at the time that he brought it to public light. And what's fascinating about that is he did predict it, and we did discover it in, what was it, the early 2000s, I believe,
Yep.
that we
It was
discovered.
like 2003, I believe, or anywhere between 2000 and 2003.
I was actually keeping up with it shortly after, when they was called Unipentium, before they even named it Moscovium.
And
And
it
it
was
was like
Russians, right?
Yeah.
Russians were
Russians.
the ones who.
And Americans. There's Russians and American scientists
Oh, okay,
together.
both. Yeah, okay.
Both,
Sorry,
but I
keep
think the
going.
Russians led that team, so I think that's why they named it Moscovium, because it was discovered in Moscow. Um, the interesting thing about 115, you could easily brush over it and just say, oh yeah, it's a, alien element that we don't have here, but we have synthesized it, so we know it's true. We know it's a real element. I'm thinking that element 115 occurred naturally, or came from, a certain series of supernovas that created the element that maybe landed on a planet similar to ours that could harbor intelligent life. And that could be something that was naturally on the planet. Something, as simple as like to us, or earth element to us, but as they're in a certain part of the universe, they just have access to even heavier element. So they're already ahead of the game in research when it comes to naturally occurring things on their Earth. So they could manipulate that with technology to create anti-gravity. And the very interesting thing about 115, opposed to any other element that we discovered, is it does exhibit anti-gravity properties. And they have that. And the way it does it is very interesting, because it has something to do with the strong nuclear force that holds the neutrons and the protons together. So in normal elements that we're used to, those are just held together by like a strong nuclear force. You can't break them. As the got heavier, like L-15, it exhibits more like gravitational elements, also like in also with the strong nuclear force. So the gravitational force extends past the electron shell. And that's the first element that we've seen actually do that, but we can't really fuck with it too much until we get more more element 115 to fool with. But on the atomic scale, from what we know, from what's been researched, from what I've seen, they does have anti-gravity properties that extend past the electron shell. So what does that mean? That means that if you keep combining element 115 in higher and higher quantities in a condensed space, that anti-gravity shell should, in theory, get bigger and bigger and bigger. And the more you have it condensed in one space, it will, be pushed out. So if you have enough of it, it can envelop a craft.
That's
And
cool.
all you got to
dope.
do is manipulate it to turn it on and off and do what you need with it.
See, I came across similar information of like that being explained a couple years ago, whenever I did a deep dive into Bob Lazar, right? Whenever I first heard about him, heard his story, all this stuff like that, like I did a deep dive, and what really pushed me over the edge to the point where I was like, no, I totally believe this guy, was the fact that everything he claimed that happened in the 80s, everything, like literally pretty much everything he claimed over the years, all proved to be true. Everything with how they move, all that shit, like with all the documented stuff that's now finally being released. And then on top of that, the element 115, just a fun fact, I don't know if I didn't catch if you mentioned it or not, but when the Russians discovered it, right, like, or Russians and American scientists together, so the version that they came up with was it wasn't stable though. It was something that they could not keep it stable. It was a very tiny amount, but it did it for a moment, like it made it, and then it was just too unstable and it fell apart. But the thing is that just proved that because Bob Lazar talked about 115, whatever these crafts had in it inside these little anti-gravity type engines,
inside the sphere they had,
thing
right?
that they had, is what it ran on. So it's like they were using a refined version of element 115, an actual stable version of it. So it's like Bob Lazar, that right there, boom, tally mark for Bob Lazar. He won again. Here's another point. Like everything he's claimed has been true thus far. and people are just now getting on the bandwagon of actually believing the guy.
I mean, what really turned me over to thinking that he was factually correct was the fact that he was so open with everything, and the government didn't kill him. A lot of these people who whistleblow and just do one small fact, the government will shush them and hide them away forever.
Well, he did the best thing he could for himself. If you like, I'm sure you.
Yeah. He was completely public about everything really fast, right? Like,
Yeah,
he didn't.
they
hide.
did try to erase him.
Oh yes, they did. They tried to erase him
Yeah,
and
and
his
they
family.
tried to. Yeah, and they tried to. It didn't work at Los Alamos, which they proved that he did because he. Fuck, you can thank Joe Rogan for that shit.
Yeah.
He was the one really getting that information out there. But yeah,
I think the
go
most
ahead.
I think the most interesting, convincing, the thing that convinced me, that pushed me over the edge with Bob Lazar, thinking that he knew he worked there. He worked at S4. I have no doubt. And it was in that last documentary from who did it? Jeremy Corbell?
Yeah.
Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp. Jeremy presented Bob Lazar with a hand scanner that he recognized, that he perfectly described
I remember that.
back in the 90s when he was talking about it very first. And you can pull up that interview, that first documentary. You'll see him come in his Corvette looking all cool in the desert. That documentary back then, he perfectly described it. Jeremy Corbell presented to him because he finally found it, and it was exactly as he described. So he had to have been there. That was cutting edge technology to measure the bones in your hands.
Yeah, it measures the bones in your hands,
Yeah.
and it's unique to each person. Like everybody's like measurements are going to be uniquely different with the bones in their hands. So it's like I said, everything that he has claimed has been true. Like there's not been one thing that has been like proven to not be true. And now, if anything, the list is like super outweighing of what's not true.
I wonder
right?
what it's going to take to make a 115 or Moscovium sort of stable or able to be used.
Well, they had to have created something that's remotely stable because Dr. Stephen Greer talks about how some of the UFOs we see in the sky are 100% reverse engineered UFOs, recovered craft that the off the book military personnel of some form, they're not even military at that point because they're not part of the government.
Yeah,
right?
but I bring that up because most like documents and scientific papers and whatnot say that they've only made a few of these elements.
Mhm.
They don't talk about making several hundred or it being easy to do or anything of that nature. So if they're able to make it and keep it stable, that would be the game changer factor for me to be like, okay, now we have this element. Now it is an element that we can always have.
Mhm.
Much like the God particle, if you will. They made it one time; they can never do it again.
Mhm.
So I don't know. We talk about that. The fact that the element is so unstable.
Yeah, it is unstable. I've been doing research into element 115 since probably 2011, 2010. It's a very unstable element here, and that's from a number of factors. To get element 115, it needs to have the right isotope. It needs to have the right isotope to get it to bind, to get it to be. That's like anything else. Like, it's like what? Lead and diamond. Same thing, same chemical, same atomic structure, but you got to find the right one that works. And the more complicated, like element 115, it's a heavy element. It's got a lot of electrons. A lot of things can go wrong. But under certain conditions, whether it's pressure, heat, cold, whatever, there is a certain way you can construct an element 115 that is stable. And it's proven because we found it. It's in those crafts. I mean, it's there. We made the first one. We just got to make the rest, and we got to make it stable. And once we do, it's going to be a game changer.
I think they already have.
I see. So? I also agree with that.
Because,
I also think that too.
Yeah, because Dr. Stephen Greer was in that episode that I sent you. I don't think I sent it to you, Stephen. I'll send it to you after this podcast. You should listen. It's like 2 hours long.
Thank you,
Guinness. I'm fine with
that. Thank you, Guinness. But no, like I think that they've already discovered a stable version of it because Dr. Stephen Greer was talking.
Wouldn't they just reuse the engine? It's like finding an old car.
They only have so much
gas.
They only have so much. So
we also don't know how much element 115 it actually requires to run. Because let's say we haven't synthesized it, that means we've been recycling element 115 since the 40s, since the 50s. It's like, it can be like nuclear power for all we know, where it is very powerful and very abundant in such a small quantity. We don't know.
Yeah.
Man, I love that thought.
I really believe what's stopping Dr. I like listening to Dr. Stephen Greer, even when he starts to tread that line where like part of you doesn't want to, like, it just seems like it might be too outlandish, but then he just backs it right the fuck up with some like just blatant common sense facts, and you can't look away from it. But like he went out of his way to describe and explain that whatever off the book projects, the group that has been doing this with UFOs since the government and all that shit was back and still using paper and fucking quills and shit.
Love that
back
though.
in the 40s. I love that though. He was explaining that when we see a UFO or UAP now, he said there's a good possibility, like a 50% chance, that it's not little green men or some type of alien inside that. It's probably us, because they have figured out. He openly talked about that he has, in these documents, he's been able to be privy to things and get things from whistleblowers proving that whatever group or entity that's off the books that's has these things has figured out a way to make them and has made their own. And in fact, that brings me to another one. I've been trying to find an image for a long time. I used to have a picture of it, but there's whenever the Congress released all of those fucking documents and didn't tell anybody back in, what was it, 2020? I think it was, or 2018 or 2019.
When they disclosed all the
documents, all the documents.
When they disclosed like the Tic Tac and everything, right?
Yeah. So it was like 2019, I think it was going on or something like that. In those, because there's a fuckload of documents, right? Other than that Tic Tac, that was just one random thing inside the stuff. But in the actual papers, because you can go online to whatever.org, where the United States has released it, where it's open to the public, there are papers in there that show a flying saucer blueprint, and it's an American-made blueprint from some government section, and it's titled whatever aerial craft, and it's apparently theirs. They made it, and it's a disc.
Was it like
it's like a frisbee?
I hate those fucking frisbee-looking UFOs, dude.
But that's what it is. But it's like a modern one. Like that was it even had the date like 2011 or 2012.
Oh, so this was made in the Air Force in the 50s when
no,
all those videos
past like 15 years.
Holy shit.
So it's like it had the patent like date number on the bottom, and it was like 2011, 2012.
You think we can make AI find a way to keep 115 stable? Ask it to find a way to make it.
They probably already do. The fact that we have Chat GPT right now and like all these other AI things, that means we had AI back in the 50s.
Oh, 100%, dude.
60s. Because by the time we get technology to the public, we're behind by, at this point, basically 30 to 40 years, maybe a little bit more. But for sure, every bit of 30 years. Hands down. Because some of the stuff that's come out was whistleblown about by like people like Alex Jones, Snowden, Stephen Greer, stuff like that. But the reason I brought up Alex Jones because he was talking about certain. It was basically like an X-ray that you can use, that people like the government was using to be able to look through people's homes, and so it would see through walls, and instead of seeing a skeleton, it would see you as if you were standing in front of you. It literally, like, no joke. And he was telling people about it back in the, like, maybe it was I think it was early 2000s.
So yeah, you can do that nowadays. They have cameras that move so fast with the lens that it'll see through walls for like X-ray vision.
Yeah. This is a little bit more. This was as if there wasn't a wall there.
That's crazy.
He's gonna pull up some shit. He's got his laptop with him today.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's just like he was trying to whistle all that stuff back then. So it's just like, and then it turns out, that technology fucking exists, but yet no one wants to talk about it. Now that everyone knows it's real, no one's talking about it. It's like, bro, like what if I'm in the shower and I'm shaving my nether parts because I gotta be clean and secure and sleek like a new car, like the 2023.
Are you giving the ball mullet? You shaving the front, leaving the back long? The ball mullet.
We call that the rat tail, and that's what for the plane with like you twist the finger
Twirl
around.
it.
Yeah, twirl that shit.
They're gonna share that. They're gonna share that image in Monday morning in the CIA. Watch.
Yeah, so the camera that can see through like plastics and clothes and whatnot, it's called the OnePlus 8 Pro. It can just see through like any plastics and any clothes. I think that's fairly new. I'm trying to find a little bit more on that. Sorry, guys, but
It's interesting.
it's just like a high-end DSLR camera that can see through these plastics and whatnot. And I've read a few documents about how the military and the government have higher power cameras that can see through like walls, like drywall.
Yeah. Well, no. Yeah. And then, but the thing is, if they're talking about that now and they're saying that we have this, right, and you can buy it, what fuck ever, like we know about it. It's all very public and no one gives a shit. That means they have something far more advanced.
Oh yeah.
We're talking about leagues advanced that we don't even fucking know about. Like hands down. Like the whole chat. That's why I referenced ChatGPT and AI. I guarantee that there's something like a fucking like from space. What was it? Stanley Kubrick film. Space Odyssey 2001 or whatever.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. That's
It's like that. Like the AI at the end. It's like, well, I dreamed, Davey. Yeah, they probably got shit like that.
So like what the camera does, it just takes like a million photos in a matter of seconds to make a 3D representation of what's behind that wall.
It's fucking cool though.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
That way, when my wife's like, "No, get out of the bathroom, I'm changing," I'd be like, "Dick." I would use it for childish reasons. Very primitive reasons.
You're a pervert. Dude.
We all know aliens come here for the tits.
You fucking perv.
We already talked about it. We know aliens come here for the tits.
Oh yeah,
we
dude.
talked about it a while back. I don't even know if it was on this.
They found out.
I don't know if they come here for the tits, man.
No,
I mean it seems like all the stories that dudes are getting anal probed. We're not.
No.
Don't try to.
All right, wait, are aliens gay?
Don't try to lie to me and church this up.
Abducted and
They might
impregnated. There's there was countless stories of women being abducted and impregnated throughout the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and even in the 90s.
I have heard of that, but I don't.
No, get this. So that's why in X-Files, the awesome X-Files, dopest dope has ever smoked. That fucking show, Eric, or what's his name? The guy who wrote X-Files. He came out because they asked him in interviews like where he like came up with this stuff. He's like, well, actually, I actually got to talk to like former CIA, former FBI.
Yeah, I remember hearing that.
And I got to he's like, I had to change names and stuff. He's like, but this is some of the stuff, and he wouldn't say what stuff. He's like, some of it's kind of based in, some truth, shit like that. And the show revolves around fucking aliens and
yeah,
shit.
There's one specifically that the guy
cryptids and all that kind of crap.
That guy you're talking about, the director himself, he goes back and references the episode where a woman on the street gets abducted every time the radio edits out and like goes to static, and then she disappears and she comes back pregnant.
Yeah,
they talk about that many
Those
times.
are documented cases of actual UFO abductions where women. If you look into like actual like reported cases of females who have reported that they were abducted, there are so many. Like it's almost unlimited of women all around the world being abducted, and then all of a sudden they're pregnant. And the thing is, their pregnancy. Like they're like 8 weeks pregnant all of a sudden the next morning.
I have a confession.
Some of these women haven't had sex in like 6 fucking months.
I have a confession to make. It's been me this whole time.
Slinging that dick.
I'm abducting women. Oh God, I don't want to make that. Wait a second.
We're gonna clip that one.
Wait a second. Wait.
So then I have a question when it comes to that. So what happens to these babies that get born? Do they not DNA test them to see?
In the same reported cases that are old, these women will then all of a sudden like they'll be pregnant, right? Like they'll have a belly and all that shit, and then all of a sudden they're not pregnant anymore. And what happens is some of the women have memory of it, some of them have just like it seems like a nightmare, and all of a sudden they wake up and it's like they were never pregnant before.
I have heard these stories. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like
is that how Jesus came about?
He's fucking alien, bro. That's probably what it was. Anunnaki, told you. Boom, called it. Pyramids, the gold, siphon, fuel source. Boom. We figured this shit out. Jesus, you're nothing but a fucking.
Welcome to Smartly Uneducated.
An illegal alien, dude. You got papers to be in this country, bitch.
Unfucking documented.
But no, so in some of the cases, where there's like the follow-ups or another report case by the same woman, like months later or a couple months later, some of these women do like they didn't just have a nightmare. They actually like it will come back to them slowly. They'll have memories. All of a sudden, they'll wake up in the middle of the night and they'll just remember chunks of something that happened to them. And what they remember is being abducted again and being on like a table and the baby being removed from them using these like weird ass devices they can't really see because they're stuck looking forward.
I'm no longer paying child support because of that.
Yeah, fucking aliens. I swear to God, like those kids are probably not even my kids out there.
No, there's no way. There's no fucking way.
There's no way. But yeah, so like stuff like that. And these are all like actual documented, files and cases you can look up. Now, whether or not they're all true, who fucking knows? But some of them, there had to have been some type of truth to a chunk of them, because apparently that's why he put it in the X-Files show of the women being abducted. I don't know if you watched all of X-Files, but I have. I watched the whole thing.
I've actually I've seen maybe like 1 or 2 episodes of X-Files, and I know it's blasphemy, but
started from the beginning, you'll get hooked, and then you're going to be like, holy shit, all the shit we're talking about now, right now, literally he was putting into the show.
Do yourself a favor and watch that show.
Yeah, dude, do yourself a favor, because he was like putting like actual shit that was real.
It's kind of scary too.
Oh yeah, especially how they do it and shit.
All right, I think I might have pushed me over the edge.
Stuff, like the Men in Black whole thing that people talk about over the years.
I believe that.
The X-Files has the Men in Black in it heavily because there's like the smoking man.
That professor,
all that shit.
Ehad, he talks about the Men in Black as well. There's a quote right here from him actually that says, when we can jump in and visit the Men in Black, but he talks about how aliens have helped prevent like nuclear apocalypses and how whenever we are able to jump in with them and join the Men in Black.
Yeah, but the thing is, I wonder about the Men in Black because a lot of cases, the Men in Black is that when they show up, they look like they're human at first, but then there's something's just off. They physically look different, their complexion's off. I'm convinced that either the Men in Black at this point are either wearing a suit, like a fake, like a
bodysuit,
like Mission Impossible. Pull the latex off, right?
Yeah, like face off.
They're wearing something that's not quite exact to us.
That motherfucker on the plane's not real.
Yeah, or that's it. Or it's some form of. It's not even an alien. It's not even a person. Like it's some form of cybernetic individual because it doesn't know how to compute certain things. Because
like
some
AI.
of the interactions. Yeah, exactly.
Smooth
like AI.
skin.
Like it doesn't understand certain interactions, so it will like one of the Men in Black cases that I found fucking fascinating was there was this farmhouse and they got the cops come out there. They actually found impressions in the ground where something took off. Like there was a craft that had landed in their field, but all of a sudden there was a knock at the door and it was Men in Black. One of them stayed outside. The other one stepped into the porch. Right, it was like an enclosed porch type thing. Stepped in, and it was this like old country lady, and she was just like blah blah blah. And of course, in her culture, her time growing up, like it was one of those things like, would you like a drink of water, whatever? Because the man claimed to be from the government, and so she was like, trying to be courteous, offered him water, and it was like, according to her, he grabbed the glass of water, but he didn't know what to do with it. Like it's like it didn't compute. Now that he had the glass of water, he didn't know how to drink it. And then he would randomly ask for Jell-O and like weird shit. Like his sentences were off, like his speech was off as if it wasn't fluid, which sounds a lot like fucking ChatGPT.
You're just redoing the intro to the first Men in Black movie where the alien crash lands and he says sugar water.
Yeah, it's essentially like that.
Yeah.
Not exactly like that, but you know what I mean. But the thing is, and then it left. Like it left, the other thing left. And then but there was no car, no nothing. They're like, what the fuck is going on? Because it was late at night. And then all of a sudden, like there's a big ass light outside. Like a big ass light, like lit up all their house. Like so bright that they couldn't look out the windows, and then it was gone. And so they ended up calling the police because they're like, we're freaked out. There's no car here. Like we're the only ones who live out here. Like they're like miles and miles away, like down a random road to their homestead. Like they have no neighbors. And so they're like, They were freaked out. Cops come out. They searched around a little bit, and then that's when they found, because they were like shooting their spotlights, I'm assuming, in the fields all around, and that's where they found it. It was a massive impression in this crop field that it'd been squished like permanently from the dead center, like everything pushed out perfectly like a circle, like everything going to the
so
edge.
you're saying that you think that it's actually like men in suits, like 3-piece suits and a bodysuit?
Yeah, I think whatever it
That's
is,
probably-
either it's some type of, because aliens are apparently much thinner than us. They don't have the muscle mass we
You
do.
think like Slenderman suit?
So no, like just like a suit and tie you'd see a fucking Fed wear. Right?
Man,
With a
I see.
fedora.
I see the Men in Black slogan as sort of just like a catch-all term for the powers of the controlling alien like government.
Yeah,
fucking
but in all
whatever
the
you-
cases, they all show up in the classic like black business suit, like you see FBI agents wear shit like in the movies. That's what they were wearing.
Huh.
And in most cases, that's what they wear with a black hat. And the thing is that it wouldn't surprise me if, since aliens are much more slender than us, they don't have the muscle mass we do. From all I've heard about them and what they're described as, that they could totally get inside of a fake fucking suit that looks like us if they have this advanced technology. They make something that is somewhat close enough, but it's not quite right, right? You can't remake the real thing as a puppet.
Would they look like Tim Robinson whenever he did the full bodysuit in the mall? He said, I don't want to fucking be here anymore.
Ever since I saw Tim Robinson's motorcycle sketch, that's what I want aliens to be. That's a nice motorcycle.
That's a nice motorcycle.
Oh, that's two little motorcycles with a house in the middle. But no, like, no, I really believe. Like, well, I don't say I really believe. It's either one of the two. It's either they're wearing a meat puppet suit, right? Like a fake meat puppet suit. They didn't get the complexion because it doesn't have blood going to it. So it's like they have to make the complexions right. They have to make it look right, right? So it's like they maybe don't get it quite right because it's not going to look the same as like you've seen when people put on fake latex masks from the costume shops and shit.
Yeah, Halloween store or whatever,
Yeah.
right?
They don't look like people. Now, if from a distance, if someone had one that was pretty snug and tucked in under a collar, you probably wouldn't think that someone didn't look right because they're like 100 yards away or 50 yards away. You know, if they're wearing like something that looks like a person and not like some type of, werewolf or some shit.
So if aliens exist and they're in our world and they're walking amongst us, as all the conspiracy talks say, they're among us, right? Where do they live? Where are they hiding? Where? Why haven't they showed themselves? Where are they?
Why would they? I mean, I know everyone should say, well, why don't they just laying down on the front lawn? It's like, why would they? And then on top of that, why would they be good or bad? For some reason, everyone thinks that something has to be subjectively good or subjectively bad, right?
I mean, I'm not even going there. Like,
I'm just saying overall, like with that, and just throwing that.
well, I
in
think
there.
all people are born bad anyway. So,
Well, yeah, for sure.
I think everything is bad to begin with, and they then learns what good
I'm a
is.
dick.
But besides that, if they are here with us, where the fuck are they? Why are they so scared to show us? Because we're gonna go insane. There's 7 fucking billion of us. I think we can afford to lose 2 billion to insanity.
True, but also, so I've dove into like alien shit, like everything all the way down to like the what's that shit? What's it called? The base where apparently there was like a war between alien human hybrids and aliens and shit, and some
The underground military base. I heard
and
about
some
that.
mountain or some shit where they're like have different tiers of like different
Oh,
2 or
yeah.
3 different, like all the nonsense like that. I've dove into shit like that. I've done everything, and I can tell you right now that I don't see why they would even divulge themselves. What's the fucking point? Why would they care? Because way I see it is, and granted, we can only look at things from our own perspective, right? Our logic and reasoning as a human being, right? So we're kind of grounded by how people say, well, if you think about it this way and try to put some philosophical spin on fucking aliens, they're always like coming from a human narrative. I'm like, bitch, these things ain't human, apparently. So stop thinking human. The only thing I can think of is the natural primal thing that's in every living being that we know of is the fact that, like, for instance, I walk by a fucking ant pile. Do I open it up and go, hello, I am from this realm of existence that you can't even. I just came out of the fucking clouds, motherfucker.
I fucking stomp
Like-
on it, honestly. Fuck ants.
See, I'm telling you, not all aliens are good, bro. But I'm just saying, like, think about it like that. Like, if they're that superior, right? So this is one way I look at it. If they're that superior, then what would be the fucking point? When I see a cricket hopping around the ground, I usually don't even fuck. I don't even give a shit. I ignore it because it's a fucking cricket. However, some people squish the cricket, hence, or pick it up and fuck with it and put it in a jar and go and feed it to a snake or a lizard or a gecko that they own. But then think about it like that: cow mutilations, cows being abducted, things being experimented with. I'm just saying.
You're moving
think
past
about-
my fucking question.
It's all connected. Man.
Where would they be? Where would they be? Not necessarily why aren't
Does
they
it matter
fucking with
where
us?
they are?
Of course it does.
I'll answer. I'll answer for you. How about
Go,
that?
Steve.
Let's do this. I think that personally, I'll say this. I don't think they're here. But with that being said, I think there's three logical possibilities in the realm of reality. What if they are real? Where they're at and what they're doing. First, I believe they might. Most logical. They're coming from space, right? They're coming from their planet. They're doing something, and they end up here. That's number one. Number two, I think that maybe it's possible that some could have crashed here, and it's possible they're in a government facility for whatever reason. Third option, and I think this is what we're seeing a lot of today, is maybe they are doing something under the ocean.
Thank
Yep.
Christ you said it.
Yep. Me and him have talked about that. I personally believe that because every time you see about them or you see footage or anything, or like I have a friend who saw them. Hell, I've seen some weird shit, and for some reason, every time and pretty much overall, they always are coming from a massive water source. Almost
Yes,
every
and
time.
if you can try to pinpoint, like go look at documentaries, and what's interesting is that a lot of these UFOs they cluster around like certain areas in the ocean. It's not random, like the area like where Commander Fravor. Yeah, well, that too. That's also a possibility because I've heard of like lost time and weird things happening in that. But I'm talking about Commander Fravor. They were
Yeah.
talking about that whole couple of weeks up until that encounter. They were popping up all in that general area. They were seeing them for weeks beforehand. So, and if you look at other reports, the same thing happens. It's not as wide known right now, but they pop up in clusters around certain areas. It's not random. So that's got to say something about the situation.
Well, they keep telling us to look up to the stars. Look up to the stars, and you'll see inner space, intergalactic beauty. They don't ever tell you to look down. What the fuck is going on in our oceans?
Especially we've only explored about 6% of it or 4% of it.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
94, 96% unexplored. One of those two.
I mean, ever since that, like, the submarine exploded, the Ocean Gate thing, my like algorithm feed for YouTube and all this shit has been how scary the ocean is. They're trying to remind us that the ocean is scary again.
Ocean is fucking scary though.
Or that we don't know the ocean like we think we do, like they're
I think the Abyss did it right.
oh yeah, we've talked about that, right?
I'm just saying the ending of Abyss probably pretty much the real answer. It's James fucking Cameron. The guy knows shit we don't. He raised the bar.
Didn't James Cameron go to the Mariana Trench?
Yeah, he fucking did.
6 times, I think, was it? Oh no, he went to.
Yeah.
It was something ridiculous.
Yeah, he's been there way too many times.
I only knew about the once. Now I know it's 5 more times added to that. Dude, he knows something.
Maybe that was Titanic. I think he went to the Titanic like multiple. I think it was like 30 something times. Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Probably got some dope ass photos.
Absolutely, he did. That's where he got the Avatar idea.
Dude, he was so meticulous. He went down there. He was looking at washers on the Titanic and trying to distinguish whether they were steel or titanium for the movie.
Yep.
Fucking ridiculous. But
He's got to be autistic.
man's a genius.
Yeah. No, I
think that classic Evan P. break.
Yeah, you go do that. I'll keep talking. So, what was it? The ocean. So when I said the Bermuda Triangle, that was a joke because if you look at how big the Bermuda Triangle actually is, it's like the third of the fucking ocean. It's
pretty
massive.
big.
I mean, a third is a little exaggerated, but it's so
big.
massive. And if everybody who's flown through there, because everyone's trying to say you fly through it, there's all that myth and bullshit that if you fly through it, you're going to be like, go missing and all that shit. And it's like, dude, you know how many planes fly through the Bermuda Triangle? all the fucking time and nothing happens to it. Like statistically, it's like 1,000,000 to 1. You know, at this point.
Yeah, it's got like low probability something will happen because it is very. I will say that I'm not saying it's anything supernatural or anything like really huge, like a big deal, but I can't say for certain. But there is something going on in Bermuda Triangle, whether it's like weird like electromagnetism difference in the Earth or something. There's something weird, but I don't think it's like aliens and people are being vaporized into clouds, never be seen again, type of thing. But
yeah, I agree. There's obviously some things happened there at some point. Something drew the myth, or maybe there was some type of weird thing that happened, right? That was outside of the realm of our understanding that someone witnessed and still made it through, type thing. Like, I don't know, alien craft type thing. We see them all the fucking time now. You know what I mean?
That's that is very strange to me, and I guess we'll talk more about that when Evan comes back. But I was like, it is very strange that we're seeing a lot more alien craft since shit. Like the last at least last 10 years now, maybe 7 years so.
I think people are being more aware though. And it does help that the advancement of our personal technology that we have in our hands, like our cell phones, are of a higher quality. And I hate it when I hear people say it's like, well, if that person saw a UFO like 2 years ago, why the fuck how come the photo looks like such shit? And it's from a new iPhone or whatever. It's like you do. Like I always want to tell these people, like, do you not know how our camera lens works? Like, if you're trying to get an object that's way the fuck up in the atmosphere or way the fuck up in the sky, thousands and thousands of feet, your camera lens can't even fucking pick that up. Hell, like go outside at night when it's pitch black, right? And the only light out is the stars. No moon, no moon's out. It's pitch black. I'm talking about you're away from the city, utter darkness except for all the illuminating stars on a very clear night. Nothing but stars everywhere. And you can see a fuckload of them because there's no light pollution from the city. Try to take a picture of that with your phone and see how well that shit shows up. Because the camera lens will do what it's trying to do best and try to soak in the light, and be able to get a picture. It's not meant to be taking pictures that fucking far away. It's just not. And people like it, but if you have like a real physical camera and not on your phone with an extended lens, with a magnification, you can get fucking wild photos of shit far away. But people don't walk around with a big ass fucking telescope fucking camera. Like, the UFO today, I'm gonna take a picture of it.
Just like the flat Earth guy we interviewed that one time, who had a like $5,000 camera apparently taking photos of the moon.
Dude, he had some wild. I will give him that. He may have been a fucking nut job. He had a dope ass camera.
Yeah, he really did.
Dude, he was taking pictures of airline planes, like American Airlines 747, shit like that were at high altitude. And he could zoom the fuck in, and you could read American Airlines on the side of his fucking on the side of the airplane.
It's very cool.
That's incredible.
Wow. Although I think he needs to learn how infrared works. Because he was taking pictures of the moon in infrared and trying to say like this is why it's fake. Because the colors that was showing up, I was like, do you not know how infrared works, motherfucker?
Or how the sun works?
Or how the sun works? Or how light works?
Anyway.
Like, yeah. We can talk about that fucking guy all fucking night. Oh my god.
Just to get back to it, I think that even with, like you were saying, I think it's going to be difficult to get like still good photos of UFOs or anything that's really credible. We're going to have to wait till our technology gets a little better for the average person to be able to capture this. With that being said, I think that we still have a really good opportunity if we have like another good mass sighting, like something like the Phoenix Lights from '97. If we had something like that today over a major city, every person would be capturing that on the camera, and there would be no denying it.
Dude, I think it's hilarious. I've watched video of the Phoenix Lights, some of the video that was captured from like outside the city, like on the edge of the city perspective of them at a distance. And the fact that they tried to say that was flares and like all that stupid shit, some military exercise over
blatant
a
lies
city out of nowhere.
Blatant
like,
fucking
one,
lie.
They to be doing that, but then two, that's not what flares look like when they're falling. Like, and I'm not even a military guy, but I've talked with other military guys. Like I was friends with a dude who was a paratrooper and like all this stuff. Like he jumped out of planes. That's all he did for like fucking. He was older than me. He did it for like 15 fucking years. And me and him talked about the Phoenix Lights, and he just starts laughing. It's like, He's like, that is the biggest fucking lie I've ever heard. He's like, I do training exercises. I've done all you can think of. I've done shit with flares. I've done stuff with everything. He was like, that was not that. He's like, that wasn't it at all. He's
Yeah,
like,
flares don't sit still.
Yeah,
They
No.
arc.
or move that way. I mean, if it was falling, I could imagine if it was going like this, because it could drop that plane, you'd see them go like that, right?
Yeah.
Because they're still going with the momentum of the plane. They're at that speed, and then they're falling. But that's not what these are doing. They were like at points they weren't even falling. They were just keep going vertically, like zooming.
And like how also on top of that, how do you explain the hundreds of thousands or thousands of people that saw the thing fly over, block out the stars? That's a craft. That's not flares. Flares don't block out stars.
Yeah. Sometimes I wonder. So, like, there was this thing I came across, and I had thought about it before, is like a soft disclosure attempt, right? Of like, that's why there's so many movies about aliens, like, especially in the past, like, 15, 20 years. Ever since, like, the alien narrative in movies became really amped up. Like, don't worry, they'd already made alien movies of different kinds,
Since forever.
But they really amped up after the Bob Lazar thing. And then they really amped up, after it had been so many years, like a couple of years. And then, dude, like, because all the movies that come out, have you not seen that? Like, have you noticed that, like, every movie about aliens is like how aliens are bad, and we have to fight them. And like,
Signs was the perfect one.
Independence Day.
Yep.
Independence Day 2, like, or how they're like we have reverse engineered their craft. And what are we doing right now that's being disclosed? We're reverse engineering their fucking craft. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of weird. Like, it just made me think, because I had thought about, like, what if this is like a soft disclosure of like getting people so accustomed to the alien concept? You know what I mean? That it's
because I mean, I think it was who was it that said it? Famous UFO researcher. I can't think of his name right now. I think he worked in the Pentagon at one point. He even said disclosure isn't going to be like that, and they admit the aliens are real. It's going to be over time. It's going to be slowly integrated into society. So I guess, and that's so we don't all freak out and society collapses.
That is
exactly what they're doing with my
thing.
mortgage payment interest right now. God damn.
No, that's exactly what they're doing, right? They're slowly introducing more and more alien, like, paranormal, whatever you want to call it, footage and like facts into our reality every day. They're just showing a little bit at a time every single day that we just sort of like, whatever, just fucking tell us that it's real. Let us meet them already. That's how I feel.
That's how I feel too. So so with this being said, I do have a question for you two. I want to know what y'all think. Ultimately, when disclosure is obviously here, it's a known fact that these things exist. Everybody believes it. We know what it is. When we know what it is, what do you guys think? Is it us or is it them? Is it aliens or is it us?
Maybe a mixture of both.
Oh, that's an interesting question.
I truly believe that it's a mixture of both.
Yeah.
Because there are some serious talks, and you guys can look this up. I mean, there's no way to prove it, but I do believe that there is some form of hybrid thing that's going on where, like, for instance, I know this is going to sound fucking crazy, but like, for instance, like vaccines. Now, I'm not an anti-vaxxer kind of guy. I am selective about which ones I get, like, with my kids. However, like, overall, I think vaccines were meant to do good at one point in time. But I think they're at the point now where it's like, yeah, you're still going to get the good thing they were originally intended for, right? But now you can spice the mix up. You can add things like they openly talked about. I forgot who. I want to say it was Dr. I don't think I don't quote me on this, but I believe it was Dr. Stephen Greer, who talked about vaccines. And then that previous the guy who was in charge of like one of the biggest sections of the big pharma back in the 80s back in the late 90s, going in the mid 2000s, who is retired now. I think he already passed away, I think. But yeah, he had to have passed away because I think it was on his deathbed. He started openly talking about, or allegedly he said on his deathbed that like they've been manipulating vaccines so that like integration with our genetic traits.
I've also heard that.
And from a, in this case, like potentially alien type you know,
So
genetics.
some wacko thought I've heard is that they are putting the alien DNA in the vaccines so that whenever our species has children or babies, that they are more susceptible to alien DNA already.
Yes.
So
that was where I was going.
That's the wacko sort of conspiracy I've heard.
Yeah, and the problem is that when you kind of dive into it, you come across like there are documents that supposedly, and I only found one once before, but it was like supposedly it was an authentic document of conversations happening between like different powers of the world, right? Between pharmaceuticals, like all the big head honchos in charge of big pharma at the time, where because apparently all the major superpowers of the world know that aliens exist and like all that stuff, and they have a deal struck with them for technology, and we give you genetics. That's it, because supposedly the aliens can't reproduce, and this is where this is all stemming from, right? And this is why they're doing that. That's supposedly.
So to Steven's question,
did I explain that okay?
Okay, enough.
I don't know. I don't know how to land the plane on that because I'm like, I want to pull the information, but it's like, it's been so long since I've looked at it, I can't remember like the actual like details that like you know what I mean, like with a place to go to look at it.
No, absolutely. Well, before Evan, before you tell me your answer, because I'm very curious to hear it, I will say like that doesn't make sense to me as far as that theory goes, and the one big factor in that is like why would aliens have to ask for permission to do whatever they want to us if they're that superior? Like why would they?
You raising your hand?
Yeah. I was trying not to interrupt them.
Go ahead. Yeah, I want to know. Like, why would they even want to do that if they're so superior? They can just do whatever they want.
I don't believe that there's that many of them. I don't think there are, because some of the stuff I've deep dived into, everything points to like things that are being claimed or supposedly said. They're few in numbers because they stopped being able to reproduce a long time ago.
I'm glad you said that, because that actually points back to the theory that they live underneath the ocean in a way.
Yeah, it does.
Yep.
It does. I've heard this.
It also points to the Anunnaki of the ones who got stuck here and left behind with the tech. Boom. Because there's a war between them. We all know it. I'm on point right now, motherfucker.
So you asked if it's us or them, right?
Yes. Yeah, I want to know. What do you think?
I think that we are the aliens, and we sort of landed here whenever the dinosaurs became extinct on the meteorite. We were a DNA transport on that meteorite or that asteroid that landed here, and we just over time evolved into what they had.
When you say, really quick, I'm just curious. When you say DNA on the asteroid, the DNA on there, was that intentional or intentional? Do you think?
Intentional. It was sort of like a artificially inseminating their species onto a planet. They took an asteroid, put their DNA on it, and sent it all over the universe. And they had it directly landed to certain places to save their species.
And it wasn't an asteroid; it was just a fucking big ass bomb.
Yeah, I mean,
that's all it was.
Who's to say it wasn't a big bomb, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it could have very easily
That's weird.
So a giant sperm bomb, basically.
Yeah. Like if you were like trying
to just bomb all over the earth.
Yeah, absolutely. Just boom, one big bomb in the middle.
Where'd you hear that from?
My brain.
Oh, I thought you were like saying that you heard it from some like before in the past.
No, that's my brain. That's my brain thinking that.
See, love it.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm a sort of a firm believer on that we are the aliens, like because we can't communicate with any other species. We don't really act or look like anything else here other than like chimpanzees, and like pigs have the closest uteri or uterus to humans and things like that. So over millions of years, we could have easily adapted other species like the pig, like the chimpanzees and things like that. But I am a firm believer that we are the aliens. So these aliens that are living under the ocean supposedly could be like the ancient ones, if you will, the eldest ones who are like, we have figured out how to be immortal, and they may not look like us anymore. They may not even act like us or talk like us, but they are inherently us.
I kind of had like I just thought of another one, like that plays off that, like because I think it was you who I talked to about fungi. Not
Oh
original.
man,
Fungus,
is this the fungus theory about like them making us hallucinate?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're probably
Yeah, I
all
love this one.
dumbass chimps eating poop right now. We just think we're sophisticated things because we're all tripping balls for for eternity. But no,
I personally love mushrooms, not necessarily the psychedelic ones, but just mushrooms in general, like lion's mane, cordyceps.
it does help.
I'm a huge fan of mushrooms in general.
It definitely
So
helps.
so y'all have heard the theory about like the Betty Barney Hill thing, and they think that like it was mushrooms, like sentient mushrooms. That's my favorite, like most bizarre, out of this world theory about aliens.
So there is one sentient mushroom that lives in the rainforest.
Yeah.
That is like it'll span like 40,000 miles.
Miles, yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
thing's amazing.
It'll deteriorate everything in its path. And it knows what it's doing. It's doing it on purpose.
Yeah, but it also like communicates with every single
Yeah.
everything. It's wild.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about that was when the investigators went to Betty and Barney Hill after the fact, that they did have fertilizer in their trunk, which was interesting to that theory in itself. And I like to play with that idea, but I just can't buy into it.
That was well, see that I thought it was stupid that they because the fertilizer thing, dude, back then, especially where this happened and where they lived, everyone would have had that on them. Every farmer, they lived in farmland, like it was farmers' country.
It was,
Like
yeah.
like up in Kansas, like when I used to live up there and I worked in the grain industry, everybody, like everyone I knew was a farmer. It was only farmer. It was purely farmland, and they all had fertilizer of some form, like in all their vehicles. Like I knew one farmer, he drove around town all the time. He had a big rain barrel, and it was like always halfway filled with fucking fertilizer.
Wait, I'm so hold on.
I'm just saying.
Hold
it's
on,
common.
hold on. Steven, are you saying that there's like a sentient mushroom race that we come from?
Okay, so I heard this on a podcast, and this person seemed to do some research into it. And I can tell you the podcast if you want. I have to look it up, but I have no problem doing that. It's
So I just did a quick
so basically, so
search of it, and I found a lot of like documents about it.
yeah. So basically, the gist of it is that they're like all like certain traits about like the Betty Barney Hill, specifically that this case, um, somehow pointed like there's a theory that it could be sentient mushrooms that may have either came from space or evolved in a certain area, and that would do certain things like it would make them hallucinate. They think that, it was maybe like a cloud of spores of mushrooms that made them hallucinate and think they were being abducted. And the cloud of the spores were attracted by the fertilizer, and that's what they were trying to get to, but happened to infect Betty and Barney Hill at the same time. Like the theory goes along those lines, but it also dives into there's a branching theory on that all alien abductions or whatever be contributed to people hallucinating because of these specific type of mushroom spores.
Interesting.
It
That's
is.
very interesting.
I don't buy it.
The one, yeah, I don't buy it. The one I found here says that the sentient mushrooms are living in the hollow earth.
I love it. I'm all for it.
We brought you back. We brought you back.
You had me at Hollow Earth. That's where you had me, dude.
I'm trying to see if I can find the podcast.
Flat Earth and fuck flat earthers.
Yeah, right.
At least the Hollow Earth theory, like they know they're on a globe. You know what I mean? Like
it is round, I promise.
like they know what's up with actual physics.
I believe this was it right here. It's called the UFO Rabbit Hole Podcast.
Gotcha. Okay.
Check that out. It was on one of those episodes.
Shout out those guys real quick, huh?
Yeah, for real.
For you.
They have good stuff. I'm not gonna lie. I just discovered them recently. It's pretty fun.
If you dig on that, there is one podcast we should give a shout out to. It's called the Alien Conspiracy Podcast.
I think I'm subscribed to them already too.
On Spotify?
I think it's on iTunes, but yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, they're on iTunes as well.
Yeah.
Oh, they're great. They do a good job.
Well, I do want to say this. I think that, in my opinion, with aliens and all of this that's going on, I really think that it's so simple. I think it's the simplest thing. Everybody, and I love the theories. I love all these theories, and I hope one of them is any of them besides one I'm thinking of is true. But I just think if it is aliens, I think it's as simple as, they're passing by. Maybe there's some kind of resource they needed here. They crash land. They fucked up. They're still mortal beings, just very intelligent and advanced. So what's to say like their craft screws up like our car breaks down? They just happen to be passing by here, and maybe we are on some interesting highway route that they just pass by and they just stop here to just admire like we would, like anything else. Pit stop, hang out for a few minutes, see what the hell's going on.
The scenic
And
overlook of the universe.
we do have a beautiful planet compared to the rest of the solar system, you have to
We
admit.
do.
Oh yeah, the rest of them look like shit. Look like
And-
death.
Yeah, and like who's to say like other planets aren't as nice as ours? I mean, they could be livable, but we might have actually gotten lucky and struck the jackpot with a really cool planet.
Yep.
Isn't Jupiter's just like a big cloud mass, right? Where it's all
Yes,
like
Saturn.
gases.
It's a gas giant.
Or no,
Yeah.
Jupiter's got the rings, right?
Saturn has the rings.
Saturn has the rings.
Yeah, but Jupiter, does it actually have land mass in it?
No.
I thought it was a gas
No.
giant.
It is a
both
gas
are.
giant.
Okay, so there's no actual physical.
No, there's no physical.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
You just keep
Well,
falling
that-
into Jupiter until the pressure crushes you and kills you.
That's how
I've read
Earth.
about
That's
it.
how Earth used to be, wasn't it? I mean, everything pretty much started as gas, and then this rocks kept hitting it over and over again until it created this.
Yeah, every planet
Much.
went through some type of weird metamorphosis stage.
Have y'all heard about that intergalactic asteroid that we adventured and found in the ocean in 2017?
No.
Oh,
Yeah, it's called Well, sorry, Hawaiians. Aomumamao.
wait. Oh, you're talking about Oumuamua?
Oumuamua. There you go. You got it way better than me.
Wait, that was the one that passed by our solar system. Like
no, that
there's-
one landed in us. That one landed near Papua New Guinea.
No, not Oumuamua. Oumuamua was the one that passed by the sun, and it had that trajectory that we just came from out of. It was the first object we ever discovered out in the outer solar.
Is the other one
that
called
came-
Hubba Hubba?
Hubba hubba. Yeah, ass. There was one that landed in our oceans near
Let
Papua
me
New
s-
Guinea.
I would look something up on my computer, but I can't.
I know. Fuck off, Ben. So it says
Here.
meteor coordinates next to Maoist Island near New Hanover, near Papua New Guinea.
I'm dropping this in the chat. Just this is the one I was talking about. That link.
Yeah.
That's Oumuamua.
They pulled up a large boulder, and they took it apart, and then they like ground it down into dust, and they found like 0.5 millimeter size metallic marbles that were not from Earth, like straight up metal marbles.
It's pretty dope.
Like
Like-
natural made or manufactured?
Naturally made metallic marbles that were found inside of the meteorite itself. They broke it down and they found, well, they're thinking that it was so superheated that it created the metals itself on the meteorite, right? So, but once they got down to it, they're 0.5 millimeter, so they had to look through microscopes to actually see it itself. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find the name of it and whatnot. This article is very long-winded. They are all 1 millimeter or smaller, very spherical, and were buried within the much, much more abundant material found on the sea floor. This is already a big red flag to anyone familiar with the shape of hard materials that you find in the waters. If they're spherical, they're likely down here a long, long time, but haven't been eroded and weathered into a spherical shape. If they've only been down here for a short time, they should remain irregularly shaped. And here's a straight up fucking image of it.
Yeah, just send it to me and I'll put it.
I don't
up.
know if y'all can see that.
Can you drop the link where that's at in the chat, and I'll pull it up and check it out.
Yeah.
That'd be sweet. Yeah, I want to check that out. That's interesting.
So when do they think that it hit or landed here? Or they even have an idea?
You had to ask me that fucking question, huh?
Well, I got no way to look stuff up right now, so.
Well, while we're looking that up, I just wanted to ask: are y'all familiar with what I was talking about? Because I know that was different than what we were talking about just now. Oumuamua, that first interstellar object.
Nope, I don't know shit about it. I have
Do
no
you?
idea.
No, I know a little bit about Oumuamua. It had like a it was one of the fastest things that we've ever documented, right?
Yes, it's very interesting, and it is very speculative, and it's actually one of the leading theories that it could possibly be a spacecraft.
Hey Ben, I'm gonna text this to you. You can send it over to Steven.
Yeah. So, what was it? And well, I mean, there's also you. Have you ever heard of the Black Knight satellite?
Hey, hold on, real quick. The two of you have phenomenal hairlines. Fuck you guys. Look at this bad boy over here with my fucking.
Damn, I haven't seen you with the hat off yet.
Woo, baby, look at that.
Dude, you
I
could have
love
some
it.
of mine. I can't get rid of this shit enough.
Priceless. That was good, dude. Your reaction was amazing. We got that on camera. Too.
I have not. Well, I didn't look at it. I'm curious to see what he did. I'll play it back later on.
He like his face like went into the screen.
Oh yeah, I'm going bald up here, boys.
It's all right, man.
30 hit me hard.
No, dude, medical technology and science, we'll get there. We'll get you hair by the time you're 50, I promise.
My hairline's receding right
Get some
now.
hair plugs for me, huh?
So wait, is there more to that story that you were talking about, Evan, with that rock they found?
Yeah, so they're thinking it's of natural origins from interstellar space. They're thinking the meteorite itself came from deep space and hit our planet, and I can't find anything of when it actually landed.
That's
But
so cool.
They have written papers on it, and there's an interview with the scientist, the lead scientist who found it. Yeah, and then so far they think it's like the strongest metal material known to man.
Oh, wow. I'm going to do some research into this. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I just found out about it like I don't know, like 22 hours ago, like yesterday. Like
Oh, wow, okay.
Just,
Yeah, I'm about to say I haven't heard of this at all. That's crazy. I mean, if
I'm sorry. Like did they say it landed 50 years ago? They want to say, like it was recent. I know it was
wow,
recent.
that's really recent. Yeah, there shouldn't be any weathering on that rock, so that's kind of crazy. It's shaped like that.
Did you receive it?
Not yet, but I know you were telling me, like, it's.
Then text
I know.
over that article to him.
I'm trying to right now.
Oh,
sorry, I'm not in the group chat or the group thing.
Oh yeah, that's right. You're on the other one. That's fine. While we're doing that, though, I mean, I could tell you a little bit about Oumuamua. Would make it interesting if y'all haven't heard about it yet.
Yeah, no, I don't know anything about Oumuamua. Only that it was like the fastest interstellar like meteorite that we notated.
It was the first one that we ever detected that from outside of our solar system, and because of that, because the fact that it came outside of our solar system and passed by is why the speed is so fast. Because anything that's within our solar system, kind of like it's the speed is relative to everything else that's spinning. So while everything is going fast in our solar system, things that come outside of our solar system are going extremely fast because they are not bound by gravity or the sun. So this thing, I just got it, Ben.
Yeah, I think it was Oumuamua. Yeah, it was Oumuamua in 2014. It hit us.
That's got to be something different.
No,
because this one.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You are definitely right, Stephen.
Okay.
This is it passed us in 2017 in Oumuamua.
Yeah. So what's interesting about it is we only caught it when it right before it was going to be passing Earth. So we didn't get a good look at it. It was already kind of like past us and heading towards the sun. What was weird about it is how slender and long it was and thin.
Oh, I remember this. I remember this very well.
Yeah. And so we don't have a picture of it, but we don't have a good picture of it. But what they did detect was that it was rotating weirdly. It wasn't just straight, so like it wasn't going back and forth. It was actually rotating, and the reason they know it was so thin is because when it would rotate, the light would reflect off of it, meaning that it had some kind of shiny surface, and they would see how big it was while it was rotating and tumbling.
Yeah,
and so
that's I'm showing him a photo of Oumuamua.
That's Oumuamua.
Oh,
that's the artist rendering.
That's what you guys are talking about.
Yeah.
I did hear about this. I just didn't know. I never learned the specifics or anything like that, so I was a little caught off guard because I did
Yeah,
not follow
so
this.
right. There's multiple things that made it very interesting. There's like 4 major things that's unlike anything else, and that's why it's still we're still studying what data we got from it. And that the first thing is that it came from outside our solar system. We've never detected anything like that before. This is the first one. That's the first weird thing. Second one is the shape. Like I was saying, it's slender, long, and normally rocks are more roundish or like potato shaped, not this really thin, long. Nature doesn't make something thin as it is and as long as it is. So that's the second thing. The third one is that, like I said, when it was tumbling, it reflects light, meaning that it has a shiny surface. There's not really too much that would have a shiny surface coming from the outer atmosphere because you're going through like dust and dirt. It's always covered in shit unless it's like a comet. The fourth thing, and that's the number one thing that made it weird, that as it passed by the sun, it started to speed up. It started to speed up before it even got to the sun, before the sun's gravity even got to influence it. And then it just shot away out of our system. Gone. Now,
Did it slingshot like around like using the sun, or
it did. It kind of slingshot itself like around the sun and then out the solar system again. So it just kind of like passed through. It literally passed through. Didn't hit the sun. Kind of interesting. But then again,
the sun didn't influence it in any way.
No. The what they thought, maybe it was a comet. And that's what, like, when the ice comes off the comet, it'll give it a little push, and maybe that's what it was. But there was no tail. There was nothing. There was nothing indicating that it should have sped up. They even calculated for the fact of its surface area being reflected from the photons, if it would give it any extra push. No. Very weird.
Dude, it was going 57,000 miles per hour, and it was 10 times more reflective than any comet we've ever seen.
It's pretty fucking wild.
Strange, right?
It's very possible that it was a spacecraft. Even JP Laboratories is saying that it's very possible that it was a spacecraft that flew past us that fast. That there was no space dust that it was leaving behind either. It was just fucking booking it.
It's very, very. That might be the strangest object we have ever encountered in our solar system.
Yeah, they just totally missed the first gas station before a 200-mile trip. Like, why didn't they fucking stop?
Somebody had to pee. They stopped to let somebody out.
I'm just saying, it'd be a pretty, it's like, fuck.
I mean, it'd be interesting, but it's kind of weird that it would be like tumbling, like a spacecraft. So if I had to take a guess, maybe it was something that was manufactured, but maybe it was like something blew up 100,000, 200,000 million years ago, and one of the pieces of this thing that they made just happened to pass by our solar system, and it burst into like million pieces when it blew up or something. Something like that. That's what I think.
I like to believe that it was a spacecraft that was just moving too fast, and we just saw it whip past us, and like, yeah, there's a rock. There's a rock. It was a rock, guys. Don't worry.
Well, that is a leading theory, so I think it's very possible.
Even if it was tumbling, there's no gravity up there, so it could be flipping 1,000,000 miles an hour, and you shouldn't really be able to feel that effect, especially if you're using the element 115 to have that anti-gravity effect, right? So, if it's a spaceship, man, that thing was gone. It flew by so fast.
Yeah, it's interesting that it came straight through the center of our solar system too. It wasn't just like skimming the edges.
Heard about this in such detail
and
before.
JP Labs and NASA are referring to it as the entity. They're not referring to it as the comet, the rock, the asteroid, the meteorite. They're referring to it as the entity. It was moving too fast, right?
I'm just saying, like, I heard about this when it happened, but I didn't know any of this information by any means.
Oh, look it up. There's a documentary and stuff on it. Like, it's good.
If this is what this thing was doing and people knew about it, like, how come I did not hear people talking about this in detail? I only heard about it the one time, and I never once, like, a single person in my day-to-day life, going to work, all that shit.
I can tell you why.
Why?
Legitimately, because I've been following this since they discovered it, since day one. I love anything to do with space and quantum physics, all that shit. So they only released little bits of information about this at a time to the public, like trickle it. So it never made a big splash. So now when they have everything, like all the data on it, they kind of like just put it out there, and nobody really caught on to it. And I don't understand why, because this is insane.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking insane.
It came from the constellation Lyra, is what they're determining.
At least it wasn't the sister, Myra.
And that also that
Do
Very
you
interesting.
do you mean Elvira?
My right hand.
Steve,
I
I
just think
think I think we gotta end this after that fucking horrible joke, dude. I think we gotta call this. I think we gotta
Fuck
call
you.
this.
I'm just saying, one last thing about it though is like,
And to be stupid, all right?
I just do want to say that it is interesting that it did come from that constantly, because it could have just came from a void of space. We could have backtracked it. It could have came from nowhere, but we traced it to a solar system.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I want to know, because like there's one aspect to this. So if it came from another solar system, so like when you go to the edge of our solar system, we essentially have this giant fucking firewall around us, right?
Yes.
It's not fire, but I'm just saying fire. It's some type of form of a radiation plasma.
Call
like,
it a plasma wall. We get the concept, right? Yeah.
So this like big ass firewall, and apparently going through it, most objects can't survive it. It like deteriorates them into nothing before they can even get past through it, because it's not like it's just one thin line. It's like a pretty thick ass fucking area that's outside of our solar system. So it's like a lot of that's why a lot of meteorites and things like that, or asteroids, are like they don't end up causing us harm or other people, like certain other solar systems, right? Because that firewall essentially like breaks that shit down, so it's way weaker by the time it gets in, and smaller at mass, if it makes it. So it's like this object is coming from that other what was it?
Lyra.
Yeah. How far was that again?
I did not see how far it was. I can look it up real quick.
Or
Keep talking.
what solar system, or where did you say it came from?
It came from the constellation Lyra, from the direction Lyra.
Okay. So like you have to think, how many solar systems? So like when you finally get past that firewall, that's when you're in like actual space where it's like the deep space, right? I think they call it deep space or something along those lines. And it's like when you're in there, it's like an empty void of nothingness but chaos at the same time, because of all the like asteroids, shit like that flying around, because there's a bunch of it apparently. But the thing is, it's a good ass fucking crazy ass distance to another solar system, just to a different solar system. So it's like you gotta think, if this object is coming all the way from that constellation, we're just one of probably many solar systems that this thing went through, made it through the giant fucking plasma wall of death on all of them.
It didn't hit anything.
And didn't hit shit, but survived going through that barrier unscathed, because it's done it. I had to have done it dozens of times before it got to us, or even more.
Yeah,
dude, I'm just thinking about it like that.
It's fucking bonkers how fast that thing was moving too. So who knows how long it was even out there, right? It could have been moving toward us for 5 million years.
We need a bigger boat.
I mean, it had to have been, right? Because it came through us.
I mean,
However, so far it says Lyra system's 960 light years from Earth.
so let's think that it was a spacecraft, right? If it was just refueling off of solar radiation from our main star, could it have just popped into existence at top speed and then refueled and then kept going? Like, could it just like hyperdrive, bow, showed up and refueled and left?
What I'm thinking is this is going to go a step above, like, what we have to reach a little bit here, but who's to say multiple alien species run the same power source and do shit the same way?
Yeah.
If there is. So maybe this is just this one species' way of doing things and it happens to work for them. Maybe they're not the pop in and out of reality type of aliens. We've never encountered these before. They're just kind of like slower, but they're more advanced than we are.
I like that.
Also, the main question that I want to ask about this whole thing is, we know it's coming from Lyra. We saw it. We did all this data. Where the fuck is it going?
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to look some up since I can't look up stuff on my.
I really want to know where this thing is going.
I kind of
just
think
interested.
that Earth might be on like the cosmic scale because we're talking about how aliens exist. Like we are all thinking they exist. They're here. They're moving. They're doing things, right? What if Earth is on like a no-fly list, like a don't go there zone, that people are just like other species are just staying away from it as much as possible. Not necessarily don't go there. They're not ready to see us, but fuck those guys. Have you heard their radio waves? They're fucking crazy. Don't go there.
Yeah.
Maybe. I also could just be simply maybe there's shit that's happened that like there's a whole other archetype of like social social constructs at that level, and maybe there's species like us that have existed before in the past that they have tried to help and intervene,
Yeah.
and it all fucking terrible. So
Yeah,
now
like
they
that-
have this so now they have this new thing where it's like and we're just happy to be part of it, and it's like other planets not at stage, don't with them.
Yeah.
It's simple.
There's this book that I've been listening to on Audible called Expeditionary Force, and it's about an intergalactic war that humans get involved in.
Mhm.
And they talk about how they're flying into a solar system to refuel on gas giants and how they can't stay there long because there are species that aren't smart enough to comprehend that.
Mhm.
So they got to get in there, 5 seconds, get fuel, and get the fuck out to go to the next one that doesn't have any intelligent life because they don't want to ruin the dichotomy in society that minute reality lives in.
Yeah.
So that sort of concept intrigues me indubitably. Like I just love it.
I believe that. I really do. I believe that we just I mean, because think about it. These aren't stupid beings. They obviously had to have gone through a lot of shit in their history to get where they're at. If that's the case, they probably do know better than us. They probably do. They have made a lot of mistakes when it comes to things because, like, we naturally, if we had that power, wouldn't we want to fuck with shit? We do it now.
Fucking
Yeah.
yeah, we do.
And if we fuck with shit on other planets and species that we don't know about, and we're gonna be like, let's tamper and see if I'm a little more intelligent. That's shit we want to. We're doing it now. We're kind of doing. If we're gonna do that.
God.
There's a good chance that at some point we're gonna make a really mistake and fuck that whole planet up because it's what we do. Aliens or they're not gods. They're like us. They're just more advanced, and they've made those mistakes before. They're not gonna come fuck with us because they know things need to play out naturally. That's probably the way it happened and what we're living in now.
Yeah. There is something I want to bring up and backpedal real quick too. So when you were mentioning light years, so the other thing I was trying to look up, I couldn't find, but this is the other thing. So 1 light year in Earth years is 37,200 years.
Correct.
Correct.
For one.
Yeah.
Now, well, I can't remember the number you said, but it was like
908.
960.
Light.
960.
960 light years.
Yes.
So think about that. How long it would take. That's how far as fuck it is.
Fucking right.
Would you say it was
Like-
37?
Yeah. 37,000.
Because when I used to hear like years and years ago, like we're talking about like a decade, 2 decades ago now. But whenever I would hear people talk about like light years away and like shit like that, like I didn't put it into proper perspective of how far that really is.
Yeah, it's they call it an
Um,
astronomical unit, right?
Yes.
And it's
Years
fucking
180. And that would be in years to get to Lyra. 30,520,000 years. So 35.5 million years.
That's not even one astronomical
Hey guys,
unit.
I don't think we're gonna make it. Like, you know, like
So that raises an interesting question. So let's say it did come from that and it is an alien craft. That means at the very least, they're over 35 million because they launched that shit 35 million years ago.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And then that's the concept with our little Sputnik being thrown out into interstellar galaxy as well, right? We have that satellite that got launched. They might find that remnant remains of it
Oh,
7 years later. What is it? The challenge? No, it's not the Challenger. What's that little
Discovery.
yeah, Discovery. Yeah,
no, that was another rocket. It was
yeah. What was the satellite they launched out to deep space? This is the smartly uneducated
Voyager.
way, boys.
Voyager. It was Voyager 1 and 2.
There you go. Yeah. So yeah, they launched it out there in deep space, right? If that motherfucker gets hit by a meteorite or a rock and gets shattered to a gazillion pieces,
Yeah.
one small little piece lands on some inhabited planet,
Yeah.
they're gonna be like, "Oh shit, we found life on where this thing came from."
No shit.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know,
Hey,
man.
I think the last update on that thing, it was just now finally getting to, or just past the firewall or the plasma wall.
Yeah, it's made it out of our solar system.
Yeah, because I know it had left the solar system, but it was in that like plasma wall
Yeah.
essentially. But it apparently had like still a pretty good distance to go.
Where?
But I don't remember. I think that was like a year ago I read about that. Also, in other news, the planet killer asteroid spotted that poses distant risk to Earth.
Oh, good. I'd love to hear that, dude.
Yeah, like they're saying that there's like it might, maybe. There's a chance, but it's somewhat small. But it's a straight up planet killer. Like it's so massive that there'd be nothing left. The planet would be toast. Like it would not be a physical globe anymore. That's how big this fucking thing is, apparently.
I
This
mean,
is weird.
it can be the size of your head. If it's going fast enough, it's gonna fucking ruin our Earth. But
Well, that's not true, because if it's like the size of a football or a watermelon, it basically burns up in Earth's atmosphere if it's that small.
Yeah. But I mean, there's certain things that are like just.
Because it like gets smaller and smaller. That's why like when you
I
have a
mean,
meteorite that's this big, it probably was a little bit bigger when it went in.
I understand how it works, but what I'm saying is if something gets through our atmosphere that ends up being the size of your head, if it's going
Oh,
35,000 miles per hour, 40,000 miles per hour,
It's gonna leave an ice crater.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fucking
Yeah.
devastating effect.
I want to know what it does. Let's see it happen.
I mean, we kind of know that from like what the Tunguska effect, the Tunguska event.
I think you're saying it right. The Guska or whatever it is.
Yeah, where that big ass fireball blew up over the wilderness area and left a huge. It wasn't even a crater; it just destroyed like a bunch of trees, and it was a huge explosion, and nobody knows what it was even to this day.
God, I love science.
Pretty wild. We went from aliens to.
we went from goats to peanut butter cock to.
we went on a journey. We ended up back in the realm of science, though.
We've been going for 2 hours, boys.
I could talk about this type of thing. So I mean, we could break this up in a segment.
No, this would be one episode.
you
This would be one episode.
can come back whenever you want, Steven.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I mean, this is fun. But so ultimately, I just want to know. I mean, you guys think aliens are real?
Yeah, fuck yeah, dude. What?
Yeah.
I think
Like they're here. Like they're fucking with us real. Like not fucking with us, but like they're here. We see them.
What on? You think you're asking me if I think they're on Earth?
Not necessarily living here amongst us, but like we're seeing them. They're here. They're in the skies. Maybe they abduct people. Maybe they walk around every now and then.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
truly do believe aliens are here. Like, there's no way they're not.
Yeah.
Like mathematically, it just makes sense. Even if logically thinking, they exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, even if like we never knew of like any UFO encounters, like that's never happened to
Yeah.
us ever in our life, I would have the same thoughts I already still have, which is if there's life here, then there's life somewhere else. It's not just us. Like it's never ending.
Yeah, dude, there's a bunker on Mars, boy.
You really think so?
There's also roads and highways underneath the surface.
This
of
is
Mars.
smartly uneducated.
Yeah,
It's actually-
yeah.
Interesting is something you can. What's interesting, what you can see, is that Mars, moon Phobos. There's actually a monolith on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is. Yes.
Well, no,
That's or what it looks like one.
Have you not seen the images of Mars that have, it's like, I forgot what they use to see it, but it's actually seeing below the crust. It's like seeing layers and stuff. It's like some type of X-ray picture.
I have not
they
seen that.
No.
So underneath, like here on Earth, like underneath our crust, there will be like crystal formations like down inside the like caverns, shit like that, right? Well, what people don't realize or sometimes don't know about crystals is they actually grow kind of like, think about like fungus, not exactly like fungus, but they
Uh-oh.
no
Yeah.
crystals will keep spawning and spawning and connecting off of each other, and they like kind of root out everywhere. And
Yeah.
when they do pictures of that of Earth, and it shows that those crystal lines and crystal caverns are all like not in any kind of unified shape. It's all very randomized, squigglies, shit like that. But Mars, when they do use that same camera on Mars, it literally looks like when you get like Dallas, Texas, like road map, and look at it, and you can see freeways going.
What the fuck?
Yeah, you haven't seen that? I showed it. Used to have that picture of it, and it was on NASA for a while, but then NASA took it down. It's no longer on NASA's website.
That's
Yeah, it's really weird because that's where I went and got it from, and I showed it to Steven, other Steven, my brother-in-law. He used to be on the podcast all the time. I showed it to him, and I went to NASA, to the website for them, and went to their images and went to it and showed it to him, and I downloaded it, and then I rebuilt my computer, so I lost one of my hard drives, so I don't have that picture anymore. So I don't know where to get it, but it's like legit looks like when you look over a major city, all over the place. Like when they would zoom in, everything. It literally looks like a road map.
Yeah, I googled Mars crystal highways. I didn't get anything.
Well, I can't pull anything up on that.
I don't think it grows like crystals. I think you were just saying like just give an example of like how we detect it, right?
Yeah,
So it's
that's
like-
how you're able to see it.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean if that's real, that's very interesting. Because I mean that just means they're probably looking through soft sediment and they're finding like the fine dirt on top of Mars. It's probably covering whatever the structure is,
Mm-hmm.
protecting the of the structure, which is pretty cool.
But the thing is, when you see them, I'm not kidding. It literally looks like one of the. There was an article that was out a while back about it, and basically they're like, "Hey, you see this right here?" I was like, "That's a road map or whatever, isn't it?" Making a joke about it, and then it was like, "Oh, fooled you! It's actually a photo of Mars, and these are the whatever layers that are underneath." And yeah, dude, like it looks like a fucking atlas map.
You think it's
Like-
something?
Well, you could tell it was like intelligent design. Like it did not look like randomized or even like fungus or
Could it have just been the rovers making a path?
underneath the crust. These images, what they're taking a picture of is below the surface.
I would assume these are probably really big structures too, bigger than the rover.
Yeah, like it looks like roads. It looks like roadways, like you would see drive down. Like you'd have perfect parallel lines going like flawlessly for like a good chunk. Because when they're zoomed out, they're actually farther out. It's like more of like 5 or 6 major cities put together. It's fucking wild, dude. Because then it really, when you see these things, you're like, there's no way that's a natural occurrence.
Man, I'm over here frantically searching the internet.
It looks
for
like
that.
fucking blueprints, man.
And see,
And the
that's
thing is,
I can believe
it wouldn't
that.
surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. They said at one point Mars used to be like Earth.
Yeah, and if that's the case, we know when life came about on Earth, and I think they said Mars, if it had water, it was from like hundreds of millions of years ago, right? Like when it was soaking wet.
Oh.
So
So, sorry, go ahead. Finish.
I was just gonna say that it would be logical to assume that if Mars developed faster than Earth, like in a more habitable environment, they would develop life faster, intelligent, and we're discovering this long time, civilization for a long time ago. It's possible.
Well, there's something I'm going to throw out there, and this is going to sound really wild. What's that?
No, not now. Not now. Are you referring to?
Nope.
All right,
Nope.
swag.
Swag. Shit. Now I forgot. Oh, okay. I'm sure you've heard people recently talking about, which I've already had this conversation a long time ago. I'm talking about when I was like, I think I had talked about this concept when I was like 15. So this is not a new thing. But like they were saying, like when in the Bible, when they say God created man, whatever, in his image, and then they can constructed Eve from the rib of Adam, right? Like they took the literal translation that Christians go from are God pulled his rib fucking out and put it into creating Eve, right? Well, there's some this where this kind of twist is that they say like a literal translation, since people back then like could they're primitive, didn't have concepts of things like whatever, and they don't understand half the shit because they've never seen that kind of stuff before. Like seeing us now, they would like shit themselves, right? They would think we're some omnipotent fucking beings, essentially. Saying that aliens created man genetically, like it's a genetic experiment, created the first human. And what do you get from bone marrow? Well, you get DNA, blood, all that shit. And so they're saying that you usually pull it from bone marrow. So like the rib, take it, blood from the rib essentially, with a new genetic makeup, mixed in and created Eve. And then of course we got kicked out of the Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden was fucking Mars. And then we got kicked out, and now we're here. Pretty much lawless, essentially, because we got kicked out. And now we're here.
I've heard that concept before.
Now this is not a new concept. I've heard this talked about since I was like a fucking early teen. But people are like, there's this new wave of it right now, and everyone's like talking as if it's
well, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen every generation, right? You're gonna have these Zoomer kids like, yo, Jesus took, yo, bro, no, on God, they took that fucking rib, bro, and made a motherfucking bitch out of it, dog.
Dude, it slayed so hard.
We were supposed to be on Mars, my guy, but on God, they for real, no cap, kicked us out. You ever?
Yeah.
There is some scientific validity what you were saying, Ben, because I do know that we get stem cells from bone marrow.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the basis. Like stem cells are the basis of everything that makes us. We can make anything, any organ out of a stem cell, really. Well, we're working on it, but most things. We learned that. So if there was anything that was going to say that a rib or bone marrow was used to make another human being with enough technology, but yeah, that's totally in the realm of possibility.
And if the things that created us was not just like, as in the Bible, they always say God, right? Like one omnipotent, all-powerful being. But it's not. It's a whole other fucking race of things.
What if they got it wrong and they spelled God?
Dog.
You already knew where I was going with that one.
Dog.
They spelled it backwards on accident.
And you thought my jokes were bad.
Hey, that made Steven laugh, dude.
He left because I just called it out before you finished.
I'm a sucker for dad jokes, man.
But no, it's just like, I mean, I really think that I'm sure the Bible or whatever was a somewhat, I mean, it's like the telephone game. So it's probably been changed so many times at this point. It's probably not the original story, but I guarantee that original story was like some outlandish thing, and like it's just what they understood at the time. So it's like they were like, oh, it's God, right? But then like that, because they don't know anything else. They know nothing. They don't even understand science. Nothing. Like they're in a hole.
You know, it'd be hilarious if you never pressed record.
Fuck you.
What about OBS?
Oh no, this is recording. I can't record with OBS right now. Since it's tied into this, if I were to hit record, it wouldn't have him in it.
Man, that would be fucking funny though, dude.
That'd be funny if we were doing this whole podcast and we never recorded.
That would suck.
That would suck. Would totally suck.
You know what I'd like to know? I would love to know the humans, or well, let's say, the Adam and Eve thing. I wonder what they would call God. Like, how do you name for some omnip being? Like, what would be the first name that they would call that thing?
Dad.
I think. All right, my question. Thank you. Go next.
That's a good question, though. I mean, I think the entity would have to like acknowledge presence and acknowledge
In some
them,
way.
and they would have to then like exchange pleasantries. I am Googog.
Well,
Like, you know,
like I don't know. I'm thinking like in a different way because I'm like I googled it just now. You know, the original, as far as we know in history, the original name for God was Yahweh. So that was the first thing in history that we ever called our omnipotent being, whether it be a god or aliens, Anunnaki, whatever the fuck. So there's got to be something because history only goes back so far. So it's just a fun mind game, a brainstorm to think like what would be the original name you would call like this being that you've never seen, no history, no mythology of, and then this thing comes down to help you.
Yahweh.
That'll be the first one.
Yahweh, this way.
I mentioned the first words out of their mouth was, "Oh fuck."
Or maybe it was Yahweh. Because think about it. If you saw something that, let's say, you had no concept of a god, you had no concept. You were this thing walking around this earth with no guidance, and all of a sudden this shiny craft or whatever comes out of the sky, you would probably make the noise, Yahweh. I'm being serious now.
No, we're all wrong.
You're so speechless.
No, we're totally wrong. It wasn't. What was it? Yahweh.
Something
Yahweh.
like Yahweh.
Yahweh.
No, it was run away, huh?
Run away.
Yeah, they were English. They spoke English.
Yeah, they spoke perfect English, dude.
4,000 years ago, 6,000 years ago.
Monty Python.
Speaking of, have you seen that movie 65 yet with Adam Driver?
Yeah, I saw it.
Fuck that movie, dude.
Yeah.
I
They
didn't
spoke
see all of it.
English. They're supposed to be aliens, and they spoke fucking English.
The girl spoke blah blah blah. I don't
Dude,
even know what the
it
fuck.
was horrible. So on that regard, even if they were 65 million years old in Yahweh's era, they could have spoken English. I mean, Adam Driver did.
Well, dude, what'd you expect?
He's Adam Driver. He can do a lot.
24/7.
Yeah.
Fuck that. Not for a movie like that. If it was like a super serious movie, like.
Or they could have. I mean, they could have done something like, "Here's a fish that you eat. Now you speak every language." You know, like
why does that have to be who wants to eat?
That's
fish?
from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy,
some
my
fish
guy.
is gross too.
What was the magic number? 42.
Yeah, 42. Yeah, but they all eat
42.
fish, and they all can then speak anyone's language. So
Yeah.
at least they wrote that up.
At least they wrote that up. I don't care. It's Monty Python. You had fucking Lancelot out there and shit.
Brave Sir Robin, brave Sir Robin.
I don't know if we mentioned this. I don't know if we mentioned this, but wasn't Ben or didn't somebody want to mention something about like these the things in Peru?
Huh?
There's like some like signs or glyphs in Peru that somebody mentioned that you can see from above. I thought somebody mentioned that. Yes.
Oh, the Nazca lines in Peru.
The Nazca lines, yeah.
So
they got fucked with?
Once they
Did you
got
hear about
fucked
that?
with.
Did you hear they got fucked with?
No.
Yeah,
No.
so the stupid activist group that is there to protect it, like their whole mission is to protect the Aztec lines. They were doing some type of like promo or something, and they decided they were gonna write out in stone to go with it, saying, just temporarily on like a sheet of, like they laid down a tarp, right? So that didn't disturb anything on the ground. And they're like, we're gonna put these stones here to put a message, like some stupid message for their bullshit.
Peace to dogs.
And you know what they did? They used the stones from the Aztec lines.
Shut the fuck up.
Nazca.
Yeah.
Nazca.
Nazca lines.
Oh my God.
No, this is real. Look it up. Say a group uses stones from the Nazca lines to write messages.
That's the
Look it up.
stupidest shit in the world.
It's
You know what
100%
makes this the worst
I think-
is that it's a group. A whole group of people thought this was a good idea.
Yeah,
Fucking idiots.
but apparently, I don't know for sure. I was hoping you'd look it up, but it was like they got in trouble to some extent, and then like they like realized it after the fact. Like, what have we done? It's like how did it take until after all that effort? That was probably hours and hours and hours of labor, maybe a couple days. And it's like, what? It took you that long to process this shit?
And it's a whole group too. Not a single person like spoke up and said, "Hey guys, maybe we shouldn't move these ancient artifacts that have been sitting here for thousands of years."
Yeah,
Really?
it was Greenpeace that did it.
Yep. That's
Oh
it.
my god.
They placed a banner next to a figure of a hummingbird carved more than 1,500 years ago, and they used some of the fucking stones. Oh my god.
Yep.
It's like they're just people are just destroying these monuments now because what happened? The guy, what was it, a year or two ago now, blew up Georgia Guidestones.
Yep, they got destroyed. Yep. I mean, I don't know. I don't really care about the Georgia Guidestones, to be honest, just because it's like everyone tries to have some type of myth around them. They don't know how they got there. Look, there's these weird New Age 10 Commandments. You know what I mean? Like, and I've read what they say. It's nothing revolutionary. We already know all that shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, someone made it look.
I beg to differ that it's not revolutionary. They appeared overnight, right? Like,
it's not that hard to do.
I mean, they're pretty fucking big, my guy.
You got the right equipment, you can do it. It's not like
but how did nobody see like a bunch of trucks and heavy machinery coming in to lift these things?
Because the Georgia Guidestones, where they're located, it's not like in a major super.
It's a nobody town,
area.
right?
It's like a nowhere town.
But they wrote all sorts of crazy shit on there, like.
They also say overnight. They probably did overnight. I bet you that was by the time they noticed. They're like, shit, it was yesterday. I just saw him yesterday.
Like, shit, I done told the ones that they don't put some rocks up there.
I swear, Sally, them things were there last night.
Then
Honey, you've been on a bender for 2 weeks. I'll tell you, it was last night.
Explain why they blew it up then.
Yeah,
because they got drunk again.
they got re-drunk, like too many goddamn redneck white people coming out here and looking at my pretty rocks.
looking at my goddamn pretty rocks.
Well, for me personally,
no, he probably was pissed off. He probably got really trashed because he found out he's got to pay child support to his 6th kid with a 6 different fucking random baby mama from a trailer park, and he was just like, "God damn it!" And he drinks and he gets real fucked up. He's probably driving around drunk, all pissed off, be like, "Goddamn bitches taking all my money." And then he looks out his window and he sees his creation that he did last time. He's like, "Fuck that goddamn thing! I gotta kill something." And he gets out.
I gotta kill something. Well, so
shoots it with the 12 gauge. Nothing happens.
It's very possible that they put it up.
I gotta tell you the story.
I'm on your side right now.
I know, but I gotta tell you how he destroys it. That was the best part.
Well, hold on.
He pisses on that shit afterwards too.
If I may.
Sorry, go ahead.
They put it up for a tourist trap, right? That's like that's definitely something they could have done because it is a nobody town. So they're like, how do we get people out here? Let's put up fucking 10 commandments. They'll come out here and look at this shit.
The hotel made like $1,000 more this week.
Dude, they have a whole gift shop dedicated to it.
Oh shit.
Look, I had this conversation with my friend earlier. It's possible. I believe that. I think it's the same things like the Mothman, like things like that. Small towns want to generate business. They're gonna come up with some shit.
Absolutely.
Hey, don't be talking shit on the Mothman.
The wildest thing is that they blew it up and they didn't find the guy who did it.
Yeah.
Because there are cameras looking at that motherfucker 24/7.
They knew. Someone just turned off the camera.
Yeah, they're like, they're like the tourist people aren't really coming around anymore. How do we get them to come back? Let's blow it up. Look at it again.
I didn't realize this town really sucks. Speaking of the Mothman, since you threw him under the bus, maybe you just need to go watch a movie called The Mothman Prophecies with Richard fucking Gere.
The bees.
Oh, jeez.
Just go watch that fucking gem.
It's not Richard Gere. That's Nicolas Cage.
That was a different movie. The Bees.
Prophecies.
That was you're thinking of Wicker Man, right?
I'm thinking of Wicker Man. You're right.
Yeah, it's called The Mothman Prophecies. I think it's got
It's Richard Gere, but they don't even. It doesn't even really talk about you don't see Mothman.
You do. You see him subtly,
man.
in the destruction and the chaos, and at the end you see what he sees because the prophecies kept happening, right? The Mothman prophecy thing's happening, and when this everything's everyone's about to die or whatever, he sees in the clouds the shape of the Mothman as the lightning strikes, behind it, so it makes the shape of it, and he sees it, and everything happens exactly what the according to the prophecy that happens with the Mothman shit. Yeah, I seen it when I was a little kid, and I was like, God damn.
You know, one really easy way to get rid of the Mothman. It's fucking
Turn off your lights.
just show him your dick. He hates nudity, dude. He hates nudity, dude.
It's not just put up a giant bug, like just a bug zapper,
Yeah, it's a big bug zapper.
just in the middle of town. Make it a new monument.
He's
He'll
like,
come
I can't-
eventually.
I can't help myself. The pretty lights.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If there was a big ass bug zapper, let's say the size of like a 3-story building in the middle of my town, and I saw a Mothman fly into it, I'd laugh at that point. I wouldn't even be amazed.
It's like a Mothman to a flame.
That's why the Mothman stuff only happens. I think it only happens at night, right? They say.
Yeah.
I don't think it's during
so.
the daytime.
I think they said didn't they see somebody saw it during the daytime before that bridge collapsed? Like that was like the famous story
Yeah, that
behind
was
it.
the whole thing behind it. Yeah, and
I
then
think that's
also, I think it originally, before it became known as the Mothman, I think it was known as the Jersey Devil.
I think that's a separate entity, isn't it?
I thought it was like basically one and the same because all the descriptions of it, you know, like
looks like a
they slowly
fucking
like kind of
demon.
morph into the Mothman thing.
My buddy today actually said the same thing. He said he thinks it's a demon.
We're
talking about it.
All these little representations of it look like a fucking demon.
I mean, think about it. Think of the descriptions. He made a good point. Talk about red eyes, these bat-like wings, you know, flying. It's
Horns.
all black. Come on, man, that's a demon, bro.
Cool.
I mean, if I'm gonna call it something, I would say it's a demon. But I really can't buy into the Mothman thing. Like I'm the type of person where I gotta have things grounded in reality at least a little bit. I just don't see it with Mothman.
Yeah, me either. I don't understand the
Nothing?
Mothman.
Really?
I don't. Not one.
No.
bit.
I look. I'll tell you. I have a very. I have
I
a
was trying my
very.
best.
I have a very short list of things I believe in.
Yeah, I don't give a shit about Mothman. I was just trying to make
Yeah.
a joke about an old movie that sucked, by the way. It was such a shitty movie. Like, it really was. When I was a little kid and I watched that, I was like, whoa. I was like, this is so cool. It's an adult movie. You know what I mean? It's like an old kid, big kid movie. And it's like, whoa, my God, the Mothman.
I remember watching it as a young man too, being fucking scared of that movie.
Then I watched it again when I was like 20 for the first time since I was like 8 or 9. And fucking, I was like, this movie fucking sucks. Like, I wasn't even a quarter of the way in. I was like, I don't remember this being so fucking. It's like Waterworld, dude. When I was a kid,
Ugh,
I loved that movie.
don't even get me started. on
Waterworld is
Waterworld.
amazing to me. I talked that movie up to my wife. I was like, babe, we should watch Waterworld. We need to sit down. That should be our next movie night. We're gonna watch Waterworld next kid-free weekend, whatever. Build up for like 2 weeks for this shit. Finally, we're watching it. We sit down. My wife's excited to see it. I'm excited to see it. I haven't seen it since I was a little kid. And like, we're like not even like an eighth or I think I would say like maybe a quarter, just shy of a quarter of the way in. And I literally turned to my wife and I was like, babe, I'm just gonna say it now because it's the first time I spoke since the movie started. And I was like, I swear to you, when I was a little kid, this movie was awesome.
we can turn this off.
But I'm not gonna lie, watching it all the way through, I kind of enjoyed it. Just for like, it was just a cheesy movie, but it was fun. I still had fun watching it. You know what I mean? You got, I think it was Dennis Hopper doing the fucking one-liners and being eccentric as fuck.
Why is everybody dirty in that movie? Everyone's
point.
fucking filthy.
There's water everywhere. Go
Everybody-
bathe.
They look like they've been rolling around in dirt. And there's water. There's no land.
Like oil though. No, I think it was oil. Weren't they covered like oilish, like grime, right? Because they were like always machinery and shit.
Oh,
Oh,
don't
that's right.
try to give them the benefit of the doubt. Don't even.
Well, what I thought was hilarious is that when I watched it with my wife, and it's when they find the little girl, and she's got the tattoo, right? And they're like, this birthmark, she was born with this tattoo, and they turn her around, and it's like, I was like, that looks like, if that bitch got that tattooed on her, like had it on her born as a baby, dude, that map, it would have had to have been like this big at first, and it's stretched out, and you would be able to read shit.
Like, what does it say? Earth?
It would be that. It'd be like smudge, smear.
This man
That's all it would be.
made a urine to water converter filter.
Yes.
Why didn't he make a salt water to water converter?
I don't know. Maybe it's more complicated, but beside the point.
And actually, desalination is a lot more complicated.
They
Yeah.
did the fucking movie.
Beside the point. No, if this map is such a big fucking deal, like when the guy's talking about it, who's like the one guy there is like the older guy who like protected her with the mom, and he's like, it's so sacred. I was like, then fucking draw it down. Like, what is wrong
You
with
have
all
a
these
sail. Draw it on the fucking sail.
Yeah, and
I
then
don't know, man. That movie is fucking rough.
oh, dude, it's super rough.
It makes me
just-
happy that I grew up on Tremors and not Waterworld.
Oh, dude, Tremors.
At least that movie aged pretty good.
Tremors is awesome.
Yeah.
Dude, when I was a little kid, I know like other friends I had when we watched the first Tremors, they all wanted to be like fucking, the main characters, right? The two
Yeah.
main ones,
Earl and Val.
Kevin Bacon was one
Kevin
of them.
Bacon and
I forgot the other actor's name, but
I'll think of it in a second.
yeah, I wanted to be Bert, dude, when I was little.
You're retarded.
Motherfucker with all his guns. Whenever I got like when he's inside
Bert
of his house.
Gummer, the guy who runs out of ammo. He's like, how do I do this?
No, the guy with all the guns.
Yeah, Bert Gummer.
Oh, well, fuck you. Anyways, I wanted to be him as a kid, like hands down, because like the scene with the Tremor is like trying to break through the wall, and he's married to Reba McEntire, which I had a crush on when I was little.
Fresh meat.
I was just like, the crush, all the guns.
Tremors is a good movie.
Fred
And they
Ward, that's his
They're
name.
like the only ones who actually kill fucking ones. So you know what I mean? Throughout
Yeah.
the whole entire film, like they're the only capable people because they're smart enough to have fucking guns. Like everyone else is like, no one has a gun. No one has a fucking gun. All of a sudden, it's like the one true redneck
kinda-
of the town steps out. He's like, I got all the guns, motherfucker.
It's
Like,
kind of like a B movie of Dune, because Dune has that giant sandworm.
Yeah.
They're like, let's do that, but smaller.
but smaller. And let's get that guy from Footloose because he knows how to dance.
Because he's handsome.
He's handsome.
And where the hell they get Fred Ward from? Because he made the movie pretty good. I liked him as an actor, and I wanted to just shout him out because he passed
Yeah.
away.
Dude,
But he
he's
was
been in tons of
phenomenal.
fucking. He's been in tons of shit.
I wonder if he's seen an alien.
Probably went on a set. I'm just
No,
so
But I like Tremors because I feel like, and maybe it's because if I grew up on it, but that's also another thing. I think it could potentially be real, and I think the closest thing would be like that Mongolian death worm they always talk about as a cryptid. That's believable. I can believe in aliens, Mongolian death worms, and like Loch Ness monster, but that's about as far as I'll go.
All right, boys, I gotta be done. It's
what time is it?
12:30 a.m.
Oh, my
shit.
God, is it really? Wow.
Damn. We've been going a hot minute. I'm sorry.
I
dude.
didn't
did
realize
not
that.
it was just late.
It's a late one today, boys.
Yeah.
I get it. Well, I guess that concludes things.
Thanks for listening, everybody. So I'm Evan.
Ben.
Steven.
Thank you, Steven.
Yep. Thank you, Steven.
No, thanks, guys. This was fun. Appreciate y'all having me on.
Again,
We'll do another one.
make sure you all like and subscribe. We'll have Steven back on some other time.
If they made it this far.
Yeah, if you made it this far.
I don't know how long this is.
About 2.5 hours long.
Nah. It's like
A lot of meat on this bone, though.
Yes, sir.
Oh yeah, we did talk about a lot of shit.
All right. Go jerk
All right.
off with peanut butter. Later.
See you, man.
Night, y'all.